base of the end of the world starting with 5 million points. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176, Dispatching Troops to Rescue. 8th. Boom boom boom. Several gunshots were fired, and the powerful recoil caused dust to fly. Dazzling flames burst out from the muzzle of the tank, and several shells burst out and shot towards the quasi level 3 power zombies in the direction of the forest point. A few seconds before the tank fired, the quasi level 3 power zombie once again broke a tree with a diameter of half a meter. Facing several shells piercing the air, it rotated the tree trunk. To block point, the tree trunk exploded, and wood chips flew. The quasi level 3 zombie had only a small section of the tree trunk in his hand, and the rest exploded. Point, the quasi level 3 power zombie roared and rushed towards the tree. With a click, the base and thick tree was broken. The quasi level 3 power zombie picked up the trunk of the giant tree, and his muscles swelled up. He used the trunk as a javelin and spear, and threw it at the tank. Point, the power zombies are strong, have strong defense, and lack flexibility. However, this does not apply to quasi level 3 power zombies. Although their speed is not as fast as that of level 1 speed zombies, they are still much faster than ordinary people. Point, therefore, the action of projecting the trunk of the big tree was completed in a very short time. Moreover, it did not mean to stop, but continued to break the trunk, and then continued to project. Boom boom boom. The tank also responded immediately, and fired continuously to block the flying tree trunk. Suddenly, wood chips flew and fell with the wind. Seeing such a scene, Luo Ren couldn't help but frown slightly, thinking in his heart, it's a waste of shells. Whoosh. He moved his body and flashed to the tank, shouting, "Stop firing." With his order, the sound of the cannon stopped abruptly, but the huge tree trunk would not stop. Luo Ren looked at the tree trunks that were projected. The thinnest ones were as thick as a soup bowl, and one of them weighed at least 100 pounds. Point, pressing the knuckles, the gaps between the bones made a crackling sound. Seeing that the tree trunk was about to fall, Luo Ren moved and kicked the tree trunk back. Point, then another thicker tree trunk came. Luo Ren slightly turned sideways, and the tree trunk was just about to pass by, and he hugged it, then rotated and knocked away the subsequent tree trunks. Luo Ren controlled the force and direction, and the tree trunks that were knocked away all fell towards the zombies, causing many zombies to suffer, and their bones and flesh were broken by the huge tree trunks in just 1 minute. More than 10 trees in the forest were damaged. Point, it is not easy for trees to grow so big. It is really a sin. If it was put in the rule of law, this beast would be sentenced to at least 10 years. Continuing to block several logs, Luo Ren saw an empty space and used a method of giving him a taste of his own medicine. He moved to hold the middle of the tree trunk, which was more conducive to shooting, aiming at the quasi level 3 zombie, and then threw it with all his strength. The thick tree trunk was like a javelin, rubbing against the air and making a whistling sound. Its power was no less than the tree trunk just thrown by the quasi level 3 power zombie, and even more powerful. Moreover, Luo Ren gave the quasi level 3 power zombie a provocative look. Raw. Stealing his own attack method to attack himself, and with a provocative look. This was simply a great insult. The quasi level 3 zombie roared angrily, clenched his right palm into a huge fist, and rotated it to fight against the flying tree trunk. Power zombies are power zombies, too easy to anger. Luo Ren smiled coldly, and ordered without martial ethics, fire. The muzzles of the 12 tanks had already been aimed at the quasi level 3 power zombie in front. Waiting for Luo Ren's order, bang, the huge fist collided with the base and thick tree trunk. In an instant, the tree trunk exploded, and sawdust flew. Point, at this moment, the quasi level 3 zombie gave Luo Ren a provocative look in return. Point, but the next second, a huge flame burst out from the muzzle of the tank, and 12 shells left 12 visible tracks in the air at several times the speed of sound and shot towards the quasi level 3 zombie. Even though the quasi level 3 zombie had the ability to predict in advance, it had not yet retracted its attack posture at this time, and it could not react accordingly. Even though it knew the danger was coming point in the blink of an eye, it was hit by several shells, which were all armor-piercing shells, leaving a fist-sized blood hole on its body, and dark red blood gushed out of the blood hole. Roar. The quasi level 3 zombie roared to the sky, and the blood hole immediately stopped bleeding, obviously using the racial talent of last gasp. The scarlet eyes looked directly at Luo Ren. This human was really abominable, and its speed at this time exceeded that of the level 1 speed zombie, rushing towards Luo Ren. Point boom boom boom. The tank continued to fire point at this time. The quasi level 3 power zombie not only has increased speed and strength, but also has enhanced its premonition ability. It has dodged or knocked away several shells in succession. Stop firing. Luo Ren raised his hand and ordered point. As soon as he finished speaking, he moved his body to test how strong he is now. Luo Ren went forward, made a fist with his right hand, concentrated all his strength on his fist, and blasted it out quickly. His speed was too fast, far exceeding that of the quasi level 3 speed zombie. So even if the speed of the quasi level 3 power zombie skyrocketed and its premonition ability improved, it could not avoid his punch. Bang. This punch hit the face of the quasi level 3 power zombie firmly, and only the crack sound of broken bones was heard, and then the huge body of 3 meters high flew backwards more than 10 meters away. Then it fell heavily to the ground, causing the earth to tremble and stirring up dust on the ground. The quasi level 3 strength zombie stood up quickly, its nose collapsed, and it let out an angry roar at Luo Ren, ready to continue attacking, but as soon as it raised its leg, its movement froze. The scarlet in his eyes quickly dimmed, and he began to stand unsteadily. His body swayed, and those blood holes began to ooze dark red blood again. After a moment, he fell to the ground with a bang, stirring up the yellow earth again. My power is indeed much stronger. Luo Ren saw his fist, which was stained with some dark red zombie blood, and muttered. He then turned his eyes to the corpse of the quasi level 3 power zombie. His eyes were extremely hot. He had swallowed 3 quasi level 3 evolution crystals, and as long as he swallowed one more, he would be able to reach the level of a level 3 evolver. Cry. Suddenly, an eagle cry came from the sky, shocking the sky and clouds, attracting Luo Ren's attention. I saw a goshawk comparable to a small propeller plane swooping down, so fast that it broke the sound barrier, causing a sonic boom and shaking the eardrums. Fuck. Luo Ren was extremely shocked and stunned. He had seen many evolved animals, but compared with this goshawk, it was simply a small witch meeting a big witch. In just a few seconds, the hawk that swooped down from 1,000 meters high was now less than 100 meters from the ground. Luo Ren immediately came to his senses, his muscles tensed, ready to fight at any time. However, the hawk's target was obviously not him, nor the guards, but the body of the quasi level 3 zombie. As it approached, the hawk stretched out its claws to grab the body of the quasi level 3 zombie, and immediately flapped its wings, and took off without stopping. As its wings flapped, it rolled up a huge airflow, blowing up the dust on the ground, and ordinary zombies that were closer were directly blown down by the wind. I jump. Luo Ren was confused, thinking that the beast was here to steal food, but when he reacted, the hawk had already flapped its wings and flew high, and even made a high-pitched eagle cry. It seemed to be provocative, and it seemed to be showing off. Luo Ren looked at the hawk, feeling more uncomfortable than eating a dead child. In anger, he actually stretched out his right hand, flicked out his middle finger, and gestured an international friendly gesture to the hawk. He cursed angrily. Fuck your 18 generations of ancestors. Chapter 177. Dispatching troops to rescue. Part 9. Seeing the corpse of a nearly level 3 zombie being snatched away by a goshawk, Luo Ren was furious. Whether it was another world or this world, he had never been so angry. Today the mantis stalked the cicada, while the oriole followed, and today he turned out to be a mantis. What was even more annoying was that the oriole was not a human being, but a flat-haired beast. Luo Ren felt very uncomfortable as he looked at the goshawk that was circling high in the sky and emitting eagle sounds from time to time, as if it was showing off and provoking towards him. The goshawk circled for a while, then fluttered its wings and left. The body, comparable to a small propeller plane, quickly shrank in Luo Ren's eyes until it disappeared. Luo Ren looked away and took a few deep breaths, and his mood calmed down a little. However, what can he do if he doesn't calm down? Even if he pisses himself to death, he can't make him fly. Looking at the remaining zombies, Luo Ren ordered, guarantee the kill rate and save ammunition as much as possible. Time passed quietly amidst the sound of gunfire and the roar of evolved zombies. About half an hour passed. The sound of gunfire and artillery went out, and Luo Ren's sight was filled with corpses of zombies. Among them were many corpses of evolved zombies, and one of them also had a level 2 power zombie. It is roughly estimated that tens of thousands of zombies were killed in this battle. The huge number is in line with the characteristics of a quasi level 3 zombie group. Luo Ren ordered to collect all the evolution crystals, and then continued to rush towards Afterglow City. This place is still 5 kilometers away from Yuhu City, which is not too far. Thinking about it, the 3 zombie groups that were eliminated should be the zombie group that besieged Yuhu City. However, although this was most likely the case, Luo Ren still maintained a careful and cautious speed. 20 minutes later, a familiar city appeared in front of Luo Ren and many escort soldiers. However, in the past, the city gate had Sanctuary City number 2 hanging above it. Now, the 3 characters Afterglow City hung above it. The soldiers of the Afterglow army on the city discovered the escort, but they were not frightened by the powerful strength of the escort. Instead, they had smiles on their faces and a relaxed look on their faces, which seemed to say that we were saved. Hurry, go and report to the 2 deputy city lords that the escort is here. A man who looked like a broad-minded and fat officer beamed with joy and immediately ordered to the soldiers beside him. Then, he turned his eyes to look at the guards and saw the man standing on the tank. He remembered that this man was Luo Ren, the supreme commander of the guards. With a smile on his face, he said flatteringly, "Sir Luo Ren, please wait a moment. I have ordered someone to report to the 2 deputy city lords. They will be there soon." Luo Ren nodded slightly and waited quietly. Time passed quietly, and after about 10 minutes, Luo Ren frowned slightly, because Xiao Zhenghang and Chen Yun hadn't arrived yet, which really meant that they didn't take him seriously. The fat officer in the city noticed the change in Luo Ren's expression and felt extremely anxious. The 2 deputy city leaders are too arrogant. It has been more than 10 minutes, why haven't they arrived yet? He was anxious, but he couldn't show it. He could only smile and explain, the center of the city is some distance from here. The 2 deputy city lords may be a little slower because of this, but they should be there soon. Chief Luo Ren, please wait for a while. Luo Ren was not a petty person, so he nodded again without thinking too much. 20 minutes later, after half an hour, Xiao Zhenghang and Chen Yun were still nowhere to be seen. Luo Ren's eyes flashed with anger and he asked, "Aren't they here yet?" His voice was neither loud nor soft, and his tone was calm on the surface, but in fact it was filled with anger. After hearing this, the fat officer trembled all over, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He pointed at a Yuhu army soldier and said, "Hurry up and hurry up." After giving the instructions, he looked at Luo Ren flatteringly, with obvious bitterness on his smile, and said, "Sir Luo Ren, the 2 deputy city lords will be here soon. They will be here soon." 5 minutes. Luo Ren stretched out his 5 fingers with an indifferent expression, and said in a tone that could not be refused, "I will give you 5 more minutes. After 5 minutes, if you don't see Chen Yun and Xiao Zhenghang, either you will open the city gate yourself, or I will do it myself." "Yes, yes." The fat officer's voice was trembling. The other Yuhu army soldiers looked at each other, and anger could be seen on their faces. It's not the anger towards Luo Ren's words, but the anger towards Xiao Zhenghang and Chen Yun. They are here to save you, but you are so slack. It is simply unreasonable. Time passed by minute, and 5 minutes passed in the blink of an eye, but Xiao Zhenghang and Chen Yun were never seen. Luo Ren's patience reached its limit. His eyes suddenly became sharp. When he saw the fat officer, he said, "5 minutes are up. Should you open the city gate yourself, or should I do it myself?" The fat officer broke into a cold sweat and his hair was wet. At this moment, he was scolding all the 18 generations of Xiao Zhenghang and Chen Yun's ancestors in his heart. "What should I do? The city is now run by 2 deputy city lords. Without their orders, opening the city gate is a capital crime. However, if I don't open the city gate, the cannons of the escort army are not vegetarian. If I take a shot, I will definitely die. Bastard Xiao Zhenghang, stinky bitch Chen Yun, what on earth are you doing? The fat officer forced a smile on his face, which was uglier than crying. He said, Sir Luo Ren, wait a little longer. Say it again. Either you open the city gate yourself, or I help you. Give you 5 seconds to think about it. Luo Ren doesn't have the leisure to continue traveling across dozens of kilometers to kill zombies just to watch you show off. This is obviously impossible. If the other party closes the door and intends to break the contract, then he can only attack the city by force, then return to Chiang City and kill Zhu Liang. May 4th. Hearing that Luo Ren had started counting, the fat officer suddenly panicked and was completely at a loss. 3. To this sound seemed to resonate with his heartbeat. In desperation, the fat officer gritted his teeth. He had not realized anything. He was indifferent to life and death. If he didn't accept it, he would do it. Instead, he remembered that City Lord Zhu Liang had said that the condition for the escort to rescue them was the surrender of Yuhu City. Now that the 2 deputy city lords in charge had not shown up for a long time, even he felt that these 2 people were really hateful. I don't know if he wants to put on airs or if he wants to kill the donkey and push Zhu Liang city lord to his death. He is Zhu Liang's old subordinate. Since the 2 deputy city lords are unwilling to come forward after weighing the pros and cons, they can only open the city gate. Anyway, Zhu Liang has agreed to Luo Ren's conditions and surrendered to the base. Sir Luo Ren, calm down. The fat officer said urgently, then swallowed his saliva, saw the Yuhu army soldiers next to him, and ordered, Keicheng, etc. Before he finished speaking, a man came from the city and climbed up the city wall. Luo Ren heard the sound and took a closer look. It was Xiao Zhenghang. Deputy City Lord Xiao, Chief Luo Ren has been waiting for a long time. Hurry up and order the city gate to be opened. When the fat officer saw Xiao Zhenghang, he seemed to have seen a savior. He hurriedly greeted the general and said hurriedly. Xiao Zhenghang did not look at the fat officer, but looked directly at Luo Ren with a faint smile on his face and said, Sir Luo Ren, long time no see. Luo Ren looked at his expression carefully, then suddenly smiled and said, yes, long time no see. Deputy City Lord Xiao, you have a lot of airs. I have just said, either you open the city gate yourself, or I will help you. I don't know which one Deputy City Lord Xiao should choose. Hehe. Xiao Zhenghang smiled lightly, shook his head and said, I don't even have a choice. Chief Luo Ren can go back and forth, wherever he comes from. Chapter 178, Dispatching Troops to Rescue. 10. I won't choose either. Commander Luo Ren, go back to where you came from. This sentence lingered in everyone's ears. Luo Ren looked indifferent, and it was hard to tell what he was thinking. On the contrary, the fat officer was stunned after hearing this, and said angrily, didn't Deputy City Lord Xiao agree to Commander Luo Ren's conditions in the previous meeting? We will surrender to the base after the zombies are wiped out. What do you mean now? The other soldiers of Yuhu City who were guarding the city also looked at Xiao Zhenghang in confusion. Xiao Zhenghang looked at the fat officer with an indifferent expression. Without saying a word, he kicked the fat officer away. If it weren't for the battlements blocking him, the fat officer would fall directly from the several meter high wall, and he would be seriously injured. If he didn't die, you are not qualified to talk to me like this. Xiao Zhenghang finished speaking, and his sharp eyes swept over the others, and then clapped his hands in an instant. Neat footsteps sounded, and a large number of soldiers climbed onto the city wall, holding guns against the original soldiers guarding the city. Pa. The sound of applause attracted everyone's attention, including Xiao Zhenghang, and everyone looked at Luo Ren. Luo Ren chuckled and said, I have learned a lot today. I witnessed a mutiny with my own eyes. I have only seen such things in history books before. Xiao Zhenghang's mood was not affected by Luo Ren's words. He smiled calmly and admitted generously, Commander Luo Ren is right. This is indeed a mutiny. Therefore, it was Zhu Liang who agreed to your conditions, not me. Xiao Zhenghang. Now Yuhu City has belonged to me. You should go back to where you came from. Oh. Luo Ren smiled and said, if that's the case, Zhu Liang promised me that he would solve the zombie crisis and Yuhu City would belong to me. So, I don't care whether you mutiny or not. What I have to do now is to take back my things. After saying this, Luo Ren's eyes suddenly became stern and ordered, all troops, listen to my orders and prepare to attack the city. The turrets of the 12 tanks turned, and the muzzles were aimed directly at Yuhu City. After that, the armored vehicles also quickly lined up in a row, and the heavy machine guns were turned off, ready to shoot at any time. Faced with such a scene, the faces of the soldiers of Yuhu City on the city changed. They felt the breath of death, which made them extremely scared. They all looked at Xiao Zhenghang to see how he would deal with it. Xiao Zhenghang looked calm, without any fear. He smiled and said, a lot of ammunition has been consumed in our city, and we can't stop the rain of bullets and tank shells from the guards however. At this point, Xiao Zhenghang put away his smile, and his eyes flashed with extreme cruelty. Then he said, although we can't stop the guards, we can still perish with the people of this city. Oh. Perish with the people. Unexpectedly, Luo Ren did not show any surprise, shock, or anger, but was very calm, as if he didn't care about these more than 100,000 people. Xiao Zhenghang saw Luo Ren's appearance, and his heart was suddenly a little uncertain. Could it be that Luo Ren didn't care about the lives of the people in this city? Although he felt this way, his appearance did not change. He just smiled and said, looking at the reaction of Commander Luo Ren, he doesn't seem to care about the life and death of these more than 100,000 people. Xiao Zhenghang deliberately emphasized the 4 words more than 100,000 people for emphasis. No, I care a lot. Luo Ren said. Xiao Zhenghang's mouth muscles twitched. Luo Ren said so calmly that he cared a lot. It sounded fake, but it didn't prevent it from being true. This made him very unpredictable. However, he still said, if you care, then Commander Luo Ren, do you still want to attack the city? Well, it's really a difficult problem. If I don't attack the city, this trip will be in vain. If I attack the city, more than 100,000 people will die. Luo Ren rubbed his eyebrows, looked worried, sighed, and said, if that's the case, then I can only. Swoosh. His figure suddenly moved, and he ran towards Xiao Zhenghang on the city wall at a very fast speed. After Xiao Zhenghang reacted, Luo Ren had already come in front of him, grinned at him, and said, then I can only kill you. Catch the leader first. Quasi level 3 zombies don't understand this principle, but as a human, he understands it very well. Xiao Zhenghang was shocked and wanted to distance himself from Luo Ren, but Luo Ren's speed was much faster than him, and he grabbed his neck with one hand. Kill him. Kill him. Xiao Zhenghang, whose neck was pinched, kept shouting, and the soldiers around him were ready to move, but when Luo Ren's eyes swept over, they were completely shocked. You are human, not zombies. You should have your own judgment. Luo Ren looked sideways at the many soldiers of Yuhu City and asked, why do you listen to his orders? After waiting for a while, a brave soldier of Yuhu City answered, we do this to survive. Ha ha ha. Luo Ren laughed up to the sky, and then stopped abruptly. Seeing the person who spoke, he angrily shouted, what kind of bullshit logic is this? If you obey his orders and resist the guards, you can live. Will you die if you surrender to me? Do you have a head for decoration? If I'll let you surrender, I just want you to die, so why should I cross dozens of kilometers to save you from the zombies? After saving you, I killed you. Am I stupid, or do you think you are very smart and guessed my mind? These words fell into the ears of the soldiers of Yuhu City. They looked at each other, and after a moment, they finally radiated their independent thinking ability, and said one after another, yes, isn't this a matter of taking off pants to fart? I'm so stupid. I can't even figure out such simple logic. Actually, I've always known it, but since most of you believe it, I believe it, too. Me, too. I've been thinking, if they want us to surrender, why do they want us to die? It's too contradictory. But since most of you say Luo Ren wants to kill us, I believe it. Who said Luo Ren wants to kill us? I don't think it was said the day before yesterday. Yes, it seems to be from the 3rd Battalion. Listening to these people's discussions, Luo Ren shook his head speechlessly. As the saying goes, stop rumors at the wise. But this wise man was drowned by group thinking. However, since these people have woken up, Luo Ren didn't want to care about it anymore. He turned to look at Xiao Zhenghang, whose face was flushed, and veins were bulging, and the murderous intent in his eyes became stronger. Facing the breath of death coming towards him, fear grew in Xiao Zhenghang's heart. He opened his mouth to beg for mercy, but his neck was held by Luo Ren, which made he was unable to speak a complete sentence. Point crack. For such a person, Luo Ren was too lazy to talk nonsense. With a clench of his palm, Xiao Zhenghang's neck was directly crushed. Xiao Zhenghang's whole body immediately limp, his eyes quickly dimmed, until he fell into a dead silence. Casually throwing Xiao Zhenghang's body away, Luo Ren glanced around, and finally landed on the fat officer just now. He saw that he was lying on the ground motionless, as if he was dead, but Luo Ren's facial features were so sensitive that he could hear his subtle breathing and shouted, "Is he dead? If not, get up and work." The fat officer was still indifferent. Luo Ren took a few steps forward and said, "Since he is dead, come 2 people and throw him under the city wall." "Not dead, not dead, Commander Luo Ren, I still have a breath." As soon as the voice fell, the fat officer got up and said hurriedly. He faced Luo Ren, bowed his body, and said with a flattering face, "Commander Luo Ren, if you have anything to say, just tell me, I will do it. Seeing you motionless, I thought you were dead. How come you suddenly came back to life?" Luo Ren teased, and then ordered, "Open the city gate, escort the guards into the city." "Yes." The fat officer went to do it immediately. Luo Ren then looked at the soldiers and smiled. "What are you going to do now?" Under Luo Ren's gaze, these soldiers looked at each other, and after a moment, one of them took the lead, and raised the gun in his hand high above his head, and then squatted down. It was obvious that he was very skilled in the business. Seeing this, others followed suit. Luo Ren nodded with satisfaction, and then asked, "What did you do in the city for more than half an hour just now?" "It was Deputy Xiao Zhenghang. He asked us to gather the people in the city, so it took so much time." One person answered. "What do you want to gather the people for?" Luo Ren asked. "It is to prevent you, the commander, from attacking the city." Xiao Zhenghang said that, as long as they hear the dense gunfire, the brothers stationed in the city will directly slaughter all the people in the city. The man just replied, "This guy is really vicious." Luo Ren glanced at Xiao Zhenghang's body, and a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. Since the residents in the city gathered, and there were guards, the guards could not rashly enter the city center. After thinking for a while, Luo Ren turned his eyes to the man, who had just spoken. The man had dark skin, and a medium build. He looked at the man and said, "Take a few people to the city center, and tell your comrades that I will not kill them for what I just said." Of course, if they kill the residents, I will definitely throw them into the corpse group. "Yes, yes." The dark man put down his gun, picked a few people by himself, and headed towards the city center. "Wait." Luo Ren suddenly called the dark-skinned man, his brows slightly furrowed, and asked, "2 deputy city lords of Yuhu City, Xiao Zhenghang is here. Where is Chen Yun?" "We still have to be cautious. If the person who led the soldiers in the city to detain the residents is Chen Yun, not an ordinary officer, then letting this person go to inform may be counterproductive, resulting in the massacre of more than 100,000 residents." The dark-skinned man said, "Deputy City Lord Chen Yun was detained by Deputy City Lord Xiao because of his disagreement with him." "You mean that Chen Yun did not go along with Xiao Zhenghang?" Luo Ren said in surprise. "Yes." The dark-skinned man said. After learning the news, Luo Ren considered it for a while and finally decided to go to the city center with the dark-skinned man. After all, more than 100,000 people are not a joke, so it's always right to be cautious at this time. The city gate had been fully opened. The guards did not enter the city directly, but sent 200 people to collect the guns of the soldiers of Yuhu City to ensure safety. Luo Ren called Luo Shan and let him handle the matter. He and the dark-skinned man went to the city center to rescue the residents. Chapter 179, Dispatching Troops to Rescue, 11th. Yuhu City is far smaller than Xiang City, and it only takes a few minutes to get to the center of the city by car. The wheels pressed forward on the gravel road. Suddenly, the noise ahead attracted Luo Ren's attention. Through the windshield, Luo Ren saw densely packed people in front of him, and residents continued to join the crowd. On the periphery of these crowds, there were soldiers from Yuhu City with live ammunition maintaining order. Parking. Luo Ren said something, and thought to himself, these soldiers are relatively scattered. If I rush in and tell them my identity, I'm afraid someone will shoot and massacre civilians before I have time to explain. And once someone shoots, it is likely to cause a chain reaction. Luo Ren rubbed his chin, thought for a while, and said to himself, it seems that rescuing Chen Yun first, and then letting her come forward is the best choice. Where did you say Chen Yun was being held just now? Luo Ren patted the dark man driving the vehicle on the shoulder, and asked. The swarthy man turned around and replied, Deputy City Lord Chen Yun is being held in a prison in the west of the city. Take me there. Luo Ren said, buzzing the roar of the engine and the vehicle turning around. Such a big movement did not attract the attention of the soldiers in front, because these were Yuhu City's military vehicles and they were all our own people, so there was nothing to worry about. 4 or 5 minutes passed, and a square prison appeared in front of Luo Ren. It was not luxurious, not grand, and had no deterrent effect. It was just a simple prison. At the gate of the prison, 2 people stood motionless like 2 stone lions. They were about the same height, one was fat and the other was thin. Luo Ren leaned on the seat with a calm expression and said, go in. The dark-skinned man nodded, and without saying a word, drove towards the prison. As soon as he reached the door, the 2 stone lion-like people suddenly moved. The thin man walked to the middle of the road, stretched out his 5 fingers, blocked the way, and shouted, prison important place, no one can enter. Old Zeng, it's me. The dark-skinned man lowered the window, leaned his head out of the window, and said hello with a smile on his face. The skinny old Zeng saw that he was an old acquaintance and joked, oh my god, I was shocked. I thought my teeth had turned into sperm. I said, Leo Wu, do you have African ancestry? You are too dark. Just now I thought you had a pair of eyes that turned into sperm, and you were driving. You said you, duo bamboo. Can you blame me? Did I want to be so dark? The smiling face of the swarthy old Wu disappeared immediately and turned into a sulky look. Just a joke, just a joke. Look at you, you're still angry. The thin old Zeng walked to the window with a smile on his face and said, okay, let's get down to business. Why do you come to the prison? The swarthy old Wu rolled his eyes at the thin old Zeng. When asked why he came to the prison, he looked sideways at the rear view mirror of the car and saw Luo Ren nodding slightly towards him in the mirror. Old Wu's mind was spinning very fast, and he made up an excuse in his mind in a moment and said, it was Deputy City Master Shao who asked me to take Chen Yun there. There is something important. That's it. Then you can go in. The thin old Zeng didn't doubt it, waved his hand, stepped aside, and let him go. The vehicle started, its wheels rolled, and drove towards the prison. When half of the car was entering the door, suddenly, wait. It was the fat man who called out, and he saw the fat man walking over in the rear view mirror. Luo Ren's eyes narrowed, ready to take action. Old Wu was also shocked, and broke out in cold sweat. He looked at Luo Ren, and opened his mouth without making a sound, but Luo Ren could read his meaning. What should I do? Luo Ren made gestures with his eyes, asking him to talk first. If that didn't work, then he would just deal with it violently. Old Wu swallowed his saliva. 1 second he looked shocked, but the next second he was smiling. He lowered the window, his head stuck out, saw the fat man, and said, what's wrong, brother Hu? Fatty brother Hu looked up and down the car, then his eyes fell on the back seat of the car. After looking for a while, he looked away, put his hands on the driver's window, looked back, and immediately saw Luo Ren. The two looked at each other, and the atmosphere was extremely tense at this moment. Cold sweat broke out on Luo Wu's forehead, and his breathing froze. After a few seconds, Luo Ren smiled and nodded. Seeing this, brother Hu also smiled slightly and said, although we have never met this brother, I want to remind you that Chen Yun is not a vegetarian. You look like this. I'm sorry, but let me say a bad word. You are so damn handsome. Chen Yun saw you and had to eat you. Do you know how fierce that guy is? I have a brother who is quite handsome, and he was noticed by Chen Yun, so he took him back and put him back. At this point, fat brother whose eyes sparkled with tears, He paused for a moment, calmed down, and said, "Don't say this. In short, you have to be careful. Thank you for letting me know. I have also heard about Chen Yun's deeds. I will pay attention to it." Luo Ren replied, "Yeah." Fatty brother, who nodded, turned to look at Lao Wu, saw that he was sweating profusely, frowned, and asked, "It's not hot today. Why are you sweating so much?" Old Wu was confused at first, and touched his forehead. He was indeed sweating a lot. He reacted quickly and sighed, "I've been staying up late lately. I'm so stupid." Then you have to pay more attention to your health. I still have some wolfberry. Come to me when you have time. I will give you some to replenish. Fatty brother, who suddenly understood, waved his hand and stepped aside automatically, saying, "Okay, you go in." Old Wu immediately breathed a sigh of relief, thanked him repeatedly, and then looked back at Luo Ren. Luo Ren immediately waved his hand and said, "Let's go." After entering the prison, they found a random place to park the car, and the two got out of the car. Although Lao Wu knew that Chen Yun was imprisoned in prison, he did not know the specific location of the prison, so he could only find the warden. Following Lao Wu to the warden's office, he bumped into many jailers along the way. Fortunately, these jailers, like the fat man Tiger and the thin man Lao Zeng who were standing guard at the door, did not doubt them too much. Some people who were familiar with Lao Wu asked what they were doing, but Lao Wu easily fooled them with an excuse. Point bang bang bang. At Luo Ren's signal, Lao Wu knocked on the warden's door. After a while, a voice came from inside. "Wait a minute." A minute later, the door opened from the inside, and a man with messy hair, untidy clothes, and sweat on his forehead walked into Luo Ren's sight. This man had a face full of flesh, and just from the appearance, he knew that he was not someone who was easy to mess with. The man first saw Old Wu, then Luo Ren, frowned slightly, and said, "What do you want?" "City Lord Shao asked me to take Chen Yun over. There's something important." Old Wu still gave the excuse he had just given, then looked at the warden nervously. Upon hearing this, the warden carefully looked at Old Wu. Seeing the Yuhu army logo on his chest, his brows relaxed a little. Then he looked at Luo Ren's chest, but did not see the Wanguojin logo. His brows, which had just relaxed, immediately wrinkled up and asked, "Who are you? Why don't you have a logo?" Old Wu was very nervous, but Luo Ren looked calm. Facing the question, he smiled slightly and said, "I'm a new recruit, and the logo has not been issued yet." "New recruit?" The warden circled around Luo Ren, suddenly smiled, and his brows completely relaxed. He said, "So you are a new recruit? Okay, follow me." The warden led the way, and Luo Ren followed. Old Wu breathed a sigh of relief. He thought he was about to be exposed, but he was so nervous. Seeing that the two had walked a distance, he hurried to catch up. Led by the warden, they passed through several heavy doors, and saw many prisoners on the way. These people had more or less injuries. Soon, we arrived at the deepest part of the prison. Unlike the outside world, there were only one bungalow with many compartments, and it was built very solidly. The door was made of pure steel, with a thickness of 1 palm, and the wall was made of concrete with a thickness of 1 foot. The whole room had only one small window with a length and width of 20 centimeters for ventilation. "Chen Yun is imprisoned here." As he said that, the warden took out a key from his underwear pocket and opened the pure steel door. Click. The steel door slowly opened, and the light shone in. Chen Yun turned her head away, closed her eyes slightly, and it was difficult to adapt to the sudden light for a while. After a long time, the door was fully opened, and she had adapted to it. Looking at the door, 3 figures came into view. The first one she saw was the warden. She couldn't help but reveal a creepy murderous intent in her eyes, which scared the warden back a few steps. Then she saw Lao Wu, and her expression didn't change much, but when she saw the third person, the murderous intent in her eyes completely turned into surprise, and she showed an unbelievable expression. Chapter 180, Dispatching Troops to Rescue, 12. Luo Ren looked inside the room, and saw Chen Yun, whose hands and feet were locked by thick iron chains. The other ends of these iron chains were nailed to the surrounding walls. They were extremely strong, and even a level 2 evolver might not be able to break free. There were several blood stains on her clothes. Her hair was messy, and her face was bruised and purple. It was obvious that she was seriously injured, that, although she is seriously injured now, as an evolved human, she is still very dangerous. Here, this is a large dose of anesthetic. Before untying her chains, give her an injection first, so that she will be completely safe. The warden took out a syringe and a bottle of anesthetic, and handed them to Luo Ren and Luo Wu. Obviously, he didn't want to get close to a dangerous person, like Chen Yun. Luo Wu saw that Luo Ren didn't move, so he immediately took the anesthetic and syringe. This bottle of anesthetic will work on Chen Yun for 20 minutes, so you have to act quickly. Don't say I didn't remind you. The warden said. Understood. Give us the key. Luo Ren said in a calm tone. The warden took out 4 keys and handed them to Luo Ren and reminded him again, before unlocking, you must first inject anesthetics. Luo Ren took the keys, walked straight to Chen Yun, pulled up the chain and unlocked it directly. His movements were neat and tidy, without any hesitation. Hey, what are you doing? Didn't I tell you to inject anesthetics before unlocking? The warden was anxious when he saw Luo Ren's movements were so neat and tidy. He stared at Luo Wu and said anxiously, why are you standing there? Hurry up and inject anesthetics. Before he finished speaking, Luo Ren had already untied all the chains at the same time. With a swish, a figure flashed by, and Chen Yun grabbed the warden's neck with one hand, and then, under his horrified eyes, clicked, broke his neck. Chen Yun turned her head to look at Luo Wu, with the murderous intent in her eyes. Old Wu was terrified, and the syringe and anesthetic in his hand fell to the ground. He shouted, Captain Luo Ren, help me. He brought me here to save you. Luo Ren said, when Chen Yun was about to kill Old Wu. As soon as he said this, Chen Yun stopped moving, and the killing intent in his eyes also retreated. After surviving the disaster, Old Wu collapsed to the ground, his limbs spread out, lying on his back, gasping for breath. Puff. Chen Yun, who had relaxed, suddenly turned red on her pale face and spit out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that the speed burst just now affected her injuries. You okay? Luo Ren asked. Not dead. Chen Yun wiped the blood from her mouth, looked up at Luo Ren, and asked, why are you here? Of course I'll be here if you ask me for help. Luo Ren said. What? About Xiao Zhenghang? Chen Yun asked. Dead. Luo Ren said. Dead. Chen Yun was shocked when she heard this and asked, have you given up on the more than 100,000 people in Yuhu City? She knew Xiao Zhenghang's plan. If Luo Ren attacked by force, Xiao Zhenghang would perish with more than 100,000 residents in the city. Now Luo Ren said that Xiao Zhenghang was dead. Doesn't that mean more than 100,000 people? This is simply unimaginable. I'm afraid that the city has been flooded with blood at this time. Luo Ren shook his head and said, I haven't given up. More than 100,000 residents are still alive and well. However, there are some troubles now, and you need to come forward to solve them. Chen Yun was even more surprised. Since he didn't give up more than 100,000 people, why did Luo Ren attack again? The huge movement of the attack was enough to alarm the whole city. Under such circumstances, according to Xiao Zhenghang's arrangement, the troops stationed in the city should have started the massacre long ago. Chen Yun was surprised. Speaking of the huge noise, it seemed that she didn't hear any loud noises such as gunfire. Although she was in a small dark room with excellent sound insulation, the firing and hitting of shells would produce violent vibrations. As an evolver, her senses were undoubtedly much stronger than those of ordinary people, and she should be able to feel these noises. But no, in this case, Luo Ren did not attack. But how could Xiao Zhenghang die again? She couldn't help but look at Old Wu, who was lying on the ground. Seeing the symbol of the Yuhu army on his chest, he should be a soldier of the Yuhu army. It was strange that he would bring Luo Ren to save himself. You know, she fought with Xiao Zhenghang because a large number of soldiers in the city turned against Xiao Zhenghang, and the soldiers defending the city could not withdraw, so she failed. After the failure, the officers and soldiers in the same camp as her in the city died or were imprisoned. Could it be that this coal-black soldier is a soldier guarding the city? But this shouldn't be the case. The soldiers guarding the city didn't participate in the fight, so they wouldn't know that they were imprisoned here. So it seems that this person is a soldier in the city. Could it be that this person deliberately defected, that in fact, he was in KO's camp, but his heart was with Han? When he saw Luo Ren coming to attack, he rebelled and killed Xiao Zhenghang by surprise? However, the probability of this is still very small. After all, Xiao Zhenghang is a level 1 peak evolver with strong individual strength, far exceeding ordinary people. After thinking a lot, he still couldn't figure out why Xiao Zhenking died without Luo Ren's strong attack. Chen Yun finally decided to use the most direct way, which was to ask, why did Xiao Zhenking die? I killed him. Luo Ren said. This made Chen Yun even more confused, and he looked at Luo Ren in confusion. Deputy City Lord Chen didn't know that Xiao Zhenghang confronted Commander Luo Ren on the city wall with a very arrogant attitude, thinking that he could scare Commander Luo Ren with the lives of more than 100,000 residents in the city. However, Chief Luo Ren suddenly flashed and grasped Xiao Zhenghang's neck in just one breath. With a click, Xiao Zhenghang died. That's really awesome, with cool posture and fast movements. To use an idiom to describe it, it is clean and tidy. At this time, Lao Wu had recovered from the shock and gained strength. Seeing Chen Yun's confused expression, he immediately explained. Chen Yun suddenly realized, and was extremely shocked. Xiao Zhenghang, like her, was a level 1 peak evolver, but he was killed by Luo Ren in just one breath. He didn't even have time to react. Luo Ren's strength was really terrifying. After looking carefully, Chen Yun swallowed. She was not nervous, but greedy. Whether it was the figure or the appearance, she was the best of the best, and she was so powerful. She thought to herself, it would be good to join the base. If I can get this. If you put this guy on the bed, you are willing to die. After calming down and preventing himself from falling into desire, he asked, you said that the residents in the city are fine, but there is trouble, and you want me to come forward to solve it. What kind of trouble is it, and how can I solve it? Finally returning to the topic, Luo Rindang explained the scene of the residents gathering that he was about to see in detail, and then gave a solution. The solution is actually very simple, that is, Chen Yun comes forward to explain that those soldiers listened to Xiao Zhenghang's lies and thought that he wanted the people of Yuhu City to surrender just to kill them. Such simple logic cannot be reversed by these people alone. However, as long as someone can clarify the logic for them, these people can immediately turn around, and then the trouble will be solved naturally. Although Chen Yun was stunned, she was not stupid. Luo Ren only said it once, before she understood it and said confidently, no problem, leave it to me. The explanation was clear, and the next step was execution. Before the three left, they killed all the guards in the prison, and released the imprisoned people. These people were actually officers from the same camp as Chen Yun, and they were all captured by Xiao Zhenghang. Luo Ren asked these officers to stay in the prison while he, Chen Yun, and Lao Wu got into a car and left the prison. When they went out, the fat man Jen and the skinny Lao Wu saw the anesthetized Chen Yun in the car. Without the slightest doubt, let him go. Fat brother Tiger saw the back of the car and sighed. To be honest, Deputy City Master Chen Yun is quite good looking. Why do you like my friend instead of me? Otherwise, with my physique, I would be able to last for 10.5 days and still lose weight, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Stop dreaming. You are so fat, just a little bit like your little finger. The skinny old Wu heard this, and said in shock, hey, what are you talking about? Xiao Mahao, I will always kill you, eh? Fat man and a thin man started fighting regardless of appearance. To be precise, the thin man was being beaten by the fat man, and the fat man was beating the thin man. Chapter 181. Aren't you afraid? Part 1. The black SUV drove from the east to the city center. A few minutes later, the SUV stopped at a bend. In the car, Luo Ren could clearly hear the noise in front of him, which showed that this place was very close to the city center and the square where residents gathered. He looked back at Chen Yun and said, we are here. Chen Yun met his gaze, nodded slightly, then opened the door, and got out of the car. Looking around with sharp eyes, Chen Yun did not find any suspicious people, so he immediately took a step. Under Luo Ren's gaze, Chen Yun disappeared on the right side of the bend. Everything had been explained clearly. Now all he had to do was wait, leaning against the seat, closing his eyes, and resting his mind, waiting quietly. About 5 minutes later, the noise in front suddenly intensified, and there were also exclamations. From the content of the exclamations, it can be judged that it should be the soldiers of the Yuhu army who were exclaiming. About 10 minutes later, the exclamations disappeared, and the noise became much smaller. At this moment, Luo Ren could hear Chen Yun's voice. You people are so stupid. Is it necessary to go through such a big circle to kill you? It's ridiculous. Chen Yun's speech lasted for several minutes. After stopping, there was a long silence. After the silence, Luo Ren heard the soldiers of the Yuhu army begging for mercy and the order to release the residents. Dense footsteps sounded at this moment, and Luo Ren's slightly closed eyes slowly opened at this time. He raised a smile at the corner of his mouth and whispered, "It's done." As soon as the voice fell, many ordinary residents appeared in his and Lao Wu's sight. These residents had their own directions, and they should be heading towards their own residences. These residents were at a loss, not knowing why they were suddenly summoned. Then, Deputy City Lord Chen said a lot of things about death or not, killing or not, which they did not understand, and then asked them to disperse. It was really hard to understand. However, they did not want to understand too much. When they were walking, the off-road vehicle in front of them caught their attention. When they saw the logo of the Yuhu army on the car, they immediately moved aside, not daring to block the road of the car. In the car, Luo Ren said, "Chen Yun has been dealt with, let's go." Hearing this, Old Wu immediately drove the car to the city center square. The bloodstains on the clothes and the scars on the face undoubtedly added a bit of hostility to Chen Yun. Those officers and soldiers lowered their heads one by one, and they did not dare to look directly at her. Even though she had just said that she would not base their collusion with Xiao Zhenghang. Chen Yun could naturally see the performance of these people, but she did not care, because after talking so much, she was now dry-mouthed and just wanted a glass of ice water. But the roar of the car fell into her ears. When she looked over, a black SUV appeared in her field of vision under her gaze. The SUV slowly stopped, and the door was pushed open from the inside. Luo Ren and Lao Wu got out of the car, but she ignored Lao Wu and only had Luo Ren in her eyes. Luo Ren stepped forward and smiled. "Thank you." The officers of the Yuhu army frowned slightly when they saw the newcomer, but most of them quickly recognized Luo Ren and were immediately horrified. Some officers who had never seen Luo Ren looked puzzled, wondering why their subordinates, colleagues, and leaders behaved like this. So someone asked, "Brother Lin, who is this person? Why are you so horrified?" As soon as this was said, the officers who had never seen Luo Ren all cast their eyes on Brother Lin, their eyes full of desire for knowledge. "You don't know who he is?" Brother Lin was surprised. He looked at the man and asked him. Then he suddenly realized that the Kingdom Army and the Guard Army were at the gates of the city that day. He vaguely remembered that this man stayed in the city. It was normal that he had not seen Luo Ren. He cleared his throat and was about to answer loudly, but he saw Luo Ren was still here, so he could only lower his voice and whispered, "This is the highest commander of the base, Luo Ren." "What?" After getting the answer, the officers who had never seen Luo Ren were more shocked than others, and they all turned their eyes back to Luo Ren. Although they had never seen Luo Ren, they had heard about Luo Ren's deeds more or less. They also learned about the strength of the Guard Army from other people. In their impression, Luo Ren, like the city lord Zuliang, was a person who could only be looked up to. Luo Ren felt the gazes of the people around him, but did not pay too much attention, but smiled at Chen Yun. Chen Yun smiled back at Luo Ren's gratitude and said, "I also want to thank you for saving my life. There's no need to say more about these things." Luo Ren waved his hand and said seriously, "On the way here, about 5 kilometers away from Yuhu City, we encountered a quasi level 3 zombie group. If this quasi level 3 zombie group is the zombie group that besieged Yuhu City, then the danger to Yuhu City can be said to have been lifted. Of course, just in case, the guards will stay here for a day to see if there are any zombies continuing to attack the city." Chen Yun was surprised and said, "That's great. These zombies often attack the city every 2 to 4 hours, and they will launch 3 to 6 attacks every day. If there are no zombies attacking the city within a day, then 90% of the quasi level 3 zombie groups you encounter on the way are the zombie groups attacking the city." "Yeah." Luo Ren nodded. As long as the zombie issue is solved, Afterglow City will surrender to the base. But, what do you mean? If you only stay here for one day, you will withdraw after one day. Don't you want Yuhu City anymore? Don't you want this city full of people? Chen Yun didn't know that Luo Ren also agreed to the rescue request of Sanctuary City number 1, so she had such doubts Luo Ren didn't hide it, and said, of course not, I still want what's mine, but there is still Sanctuary City number 1 that needs rescue during this trip, and they don't have much ammunition, so the time should not be delayed too long. After I finish settling the matter in Sanctuary City number 1, I will return to Afterglow City. You still want to rescue Sanctuary City number 1? Chen Yun was surprised and asked, what conditions do you want for Sanctuary City number 1? Luo Ren smiled slightly and said, same as you. TSK, TSK, TSK. Chen Yun crossed her arms, glanced at Luo Ren curiously, and said, the combined population of Afterglow City and Sanctuary City number 1 is over 200,000. Although population is productivity, if you suddenly increase the population by more than 200,000, how will you solve the problem of food in the early stage? If you cannot supply corresponding food, these people will eventually starve to death or escape from the base, and productivity will not increase. It may even lead to chaos in your quite stable base. I really don't know why you need so many people. Chen Yun looked stupid, but he was able to say such words, which made Luo Ren look at him with admiration. No wonder Chen Yun, like could become the master of a city. It is true that people cannot be judged by appearance, and seawater cannot be measured. Everyone has his own powerful side. Luo Ren smiled slightly and said, I have my own solution for the food problem. Chen Yun shrugged and did not ask any further questions. No matter what the solution was, this was Luo Ren's own business, and she was too lazy to take care of it. After a moment of silence, she suddenly asked, you said that you will go to rescue number 1 Shelter City in one day, then you have to take away all the guards in this way. I have the final say in Yuhu City. Now that there is no zombie threat, aren't you afraid that when you come back, I will shut you out like Xiao Zhenghan did? If you attack by force, I will use the entire city's people threatening your life. Aren't you afraid? Chapter 182 Aren't you afraid? Part 2. Aren't you afraid? Hearing this, Luo Ren did not give an answer, but raised an inexplicable smile at the corner of his mouth. Seeing such a face made Chen Yun nervous. She couldn't help but take a few steps back and said anxiously, I'm just talking about it. I don't actually have that idea. Luo Ren still didn't reply, just stared at her quietly. Chen Yun was terrified. Although she was a woman and could say desperate words to fight zombies, it did not mean that she was not afraid of death. At this time, although Luo Ren did not say a word, his eyes were not vicious, and his expression was not fierce, but it made her she felt extremely frightened. Thinking of the feeling of waiting for death in the small dark room, she was afraid, really afraid. She wanted to live, even if she had less power and fewer men to play with, as long as she could survive. Ha. Ha. Luo Ren suddenly laughed out loud. From the changes in Chen Yun's eyes and expression, he could see that Chen Yun was afraid from the bottom of her heart. The laughter stopped suddenly, his tone was calm, and he asked, are you really just asking? You really don't have that idea? The calm tone and unruffled eyes were far more intimidating than the ferocious expression and ferocious tone. Chen Yun's heart was beating fast, and big beads of sweat fell from the top of his head, making his hair a little wet. She took a deep breath to steady her breathing, so she could speak without trembling, and said, really? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Time passed by, and Luo Ren had not yet answered, but looked at Chen Yun with a half smile, which made her more nervous, anxious, and at the same time more frightened. When this female man was about to burst into tears, Luo Ren finally reacted. He smiled lightly and said, that's good. These 3 belated words fell into Chen Yun's ears, making her feel relieved. The stone hanging in her heart fell to the ground. She squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, sir, Afterglow City now belongs to the base. I will be 1000% loyal to the base. From calling him by name or you, to the current sir, it can be seen that Chen Yun has given in. Not to mention completely, that would be too decisive. but in Luo Ren's judgment, it is still 70 to 80%. Okay, since you said so, then I will give you a task. Organize people, count the population of the city, and notify all residents to move to the base. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that the base is now it has been renamed Chiang City Point. While you are counting the population, inform the residents to be prepared to move to Chiang City. Their luggage should be light and there is no need to bring heavy items. It's Luo, sir. Chen Yun stood at attention, obviously still not used to the title Sir. Luo Ren was quite satisfied with her attitude. He waved his hand and said, okay, go ahead. After that, he turned back to the off-road vehicle and said to Lao Wu, go to the south gate. Yes, sir. Old Wu said cleverly. While the vehicle was driving, Lao Wu suddenly asked, sir, I want to ask a question. Is that okay? Ask. Luo Ren said. Old Wu glanced at Luo Ren in the rear view mirror of the car and asked cautiously, are you whose city surrenders to you? So what should we, the Yuhu army, do? Luo Ren did not answer immediately, but asked, what do you want to do? After a moment of silence, Old Wu shook his head and said, I don't know what to do. I joined the Yuhu army, just to eat better and to be more impressive in front of ordinary civilians. Old Wu smiled and scratching his head, he said, if we can continue to be prestigious, eating better is of course the best. There is nothing wrong with eating better, but Wei Feng, why do we need Wei Feng? Is it to find a sense of superiority over ordinary people and then feel satisfied in your heart? Or is it to squeeze them and satisfy your own desires? Luo Ren asked. Lao Wu thought for a moment and said, I don't know about this. In fact, my main purpose is to eat better. After hearing what he said, Luo Ren didn't intend to continue the topic just now, and said with a smile, when we get to Chiang City, as long as you are willing to work, it will be no problem to eat well. More than 100,000 people retreated to their homes, although they would automatically get out of the way when they saw the off-road vehicle with the Yuhu army logo on it. There were so many people that the vehicle's speed was still affected to a certain extent. So, the journey of a few minutes took more than 10 minutes. When they arrived at Nanchang, the escort army had fully entered the city and launched a defense. When Luo Shan saw Luo Ren returning, he immediately trotted up and said, sir, all the firearms of the Yuhu army soldiers in Nanchang have been confiscated, and the entire army has also entered the city. Okay. Luo Ren said yes, but he smiled bitterly in his heart. These confiscated firearms will have to be returned later, because the escort will only stay in Afterglow City for one day before heading to Sanctuary City number 1, and during this period the city defense of Yuhu City is still implemented by the Yuhu army. Okay, there are 500 people stationed here, with Luo He as the commander. The others will follow me to the center of the city to station and rest. Luo Ren ordered. Yes. Luo Shan responded, and immediately went down to deliver the order. Wasteland Military Region, Commander-in-Chief's Command Post. Liu Yangnian had a sad look on his face and his hair was much grayer. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, catching his attention and saying, come in. The door opened, and a middle-aged man walked in. Judging from his clothing, he was an officer of the Royal Army. He saw Liu Yangnian, who was full of worry and had grey hair, and sighed slightly, walked forward and said, report to the commander, the ammunition statistics have been released. At the current consumption rate, we can only hold out for half a month at most. It's He-Jun, sit down. Liu Yangnian's eyes moved away from the information on hand, looked at the visitor, and immediately greeted him. After listening to the middle-aged man's report, he was silent for a long time and asked, has Xia Chuan replied? The middle-aged officer He-Jun shook his head and said, not yet. Xia Chuan wrote to say that the base has agreed to send troops the day before yesterday, but the condition is to take all the population and resources of Sanctuary City number 1. Xia Chuan has also agreed. I wonder how Sanctuary City number 1 is doing now, and whether Luo Ren has sent troops. Liu Yangnian said to himself. He-Jun heard this, and showed an angry expression on his face. He angrily scolded, this Luo Ren, taking advantage of the fire, has already obtained the resources and population of the 2 cities when cooperating with us. Now he wants the population and resources of number 1 Sanctuary City. He is simply greedy. Liu Yangnian has a different view and said calmly, this may not be a bad thing. If Luo Ren can solve the crisis of number 1 sanctuary city, it means that the military strength of the base is stronger than ours. It is not a bad thing to let those hundreds of thousands of people join the base point. Just imagine that if there is a first attack by zombies, there will be a second time. We can't always ask Luo Ren for help, and Luo Ren may not always agree to our rescue. But once these more than 100,000 people join the base, they will belong to the population of the base. In this way, Luo Ren will naturally guarantee their safety. Isn't it better? But without population, we don't have enough productivity, and our food supply will be a problem. We can't let the soldiers go to farm. He-jun retorted. Liu Yangnian said, why can't we farm? In ancient times, there were soldiers raising soldiers and farming. Can't we learn from the ancients? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183. Is there really nothing else? Part 1. Faced with Liu Yangnian's different opinions, He-jun did not dare to refute, and could only shut up and remain silent. Read as a result, the atmosphere in the room became a little subtle. Suddenly, the sound of an eagle rang through the sky. Even with the glass partition, it was transmitted into the room, attracting the attention of Liu Yangnian and He-jun. The two looked out the window at the same time. Liu Yangnian stood up, walked to the window, pushed open the glass window, slightly stuck his head out, looked up at the sky, and saw a majestic eagle circling in the sky. He couldn't help but frowned and said, why is this eagle here again? What does it want to do? He-jun behind him said, I don't know. This beast has been circling over the military area at this time, since the day before yesterday, every time for half an hour, and I haven't seen it attacking. After a pause, He-jun asked, Commander, should we shoot it down? Since it has no intention of attacking, we shouldn't take the initiative to provoke it. Solving the zombie problem is the most important thing at the moment. Liu Yangnian shook his head and said. He walked back to his seat and continued, in the current situation, the ammunition is getting less and less. If we can't find a way out. As he spoke, Liu Yangnian shook his head and sighed. The atmosphere in the room was very depressing. He-jun heard this, and was silent for a long time before comforting him. Commander, don't worry. Didn't you call your superiors yesterday to ask for help? I believe that your superiors will send troops to support you in a few days. The superiors agreed, but the time is not fixed. Liu Yangnian smiled bitterly and said, this disaster came too suddenly, so that everyone was caught off guard. I contacted my superiors at the beginning to ask them for reinforcement, but the superiors replied that they would solve it alone. When the 4 cities rebelled, the day before yesterday, I contacted my superiors by satellite phone, and the superiors responded that they could provide reinforcement, but did not give an exact date. From this, it seems that, although the situation at the top is almost stable, there are still many troubles that prevent them from sending troops to support the various military divisions at present. Our ammunition can still support for half a month. I hope that the rescue from the top can arrive within half a month. Otherwise, I, an old guy, can only ask Luo Ren for help. I hope the support from the top can arrive in time. He-jun sighed. Yuhu City, City Lord's mansion. Luo Ren sat in the high position of City Lord. Chen-yun still sat in the position of Deputy City Lord, and below were all officers and management personnel of Yuhu City. These people already knew about the guards entering Yuhu City, so naturally no one was dissatisfied with Luo Ren sitting in the position of City Lord. In fact, even if they were dissatisfied, they dared not show it. The zombie danger has been resolved. According to the agreement, Yuhu City belongs to the base. Do any of you refuse? Luo Ren said calmly with an indifferent expression. Everyone below lowered their heads, and no one dared to speak. Faced with such a scene, Luo Ren winked at Chen Yun, and Chen Yun immediately stood up. walked to the opposite side of Luo Ren, clasped his fists, looked respectful, and bowed. I, Chen Yun, will join the base from now on, and will be at the disposal of the commander. With such a leader, the others did not hesitate, walked to the middle of the hall, faced Luo Ren, clasped their fists and bowed, and shouted in unison, "We will join the base from now on, and will be at the disposal of the commander." Luo Ren smiled slightly, stood up, raised his hand, and said, "Okay, I know everyone's attitude, go back to your seats." After everyone returned to their seats, Luo Ren picked up the wine glass on the table in front of him. Although it was a wine glass, it was filled with boiled water. Not only because the wine was precious at the moment, but also because when on the expedition, one must always stay sober and not drink. Raising the wine glass, Luo Ren said loudly, "Since you have joined the base, we are our own people. Come, use water instead of wine and drink with you." After that, Luo Ren drank the water in the glass. "Come on, drink." Chen Yun followed closely and drank the water in the glass. Seeing this, the others picked up their glasses and drank them all. Although it was water, it felt like wine. After drinking a glass, the officers were no longer so nervous and afraid. Before that, they had heard about Luo Ren's deeds and inquired about his personality and character. However, there were many different opinions. Some said that Luo Ren was cruel and took pleasure in killing people. Some said that Luo Ren was cruel and took pleasure in killing people. Ren loved to eat human eyeballs, and they had to be the eyeballs of living people. Some said that Luo Ren liked to eat human flesh, especially virgin meat, which was the flesh of children aged 5 or 6. He said that he liked to roast it whole. There were also people who said that Luo Ren was born a saint. Even when he was nailed by a mosquito, he would wait until the mosquito was full and then let it leave. In short, there are all kinds of things, and the polarization is very serious, which makes them confused about whether Luo Ren is a devil or a saint. Now it seems that rumors are just rumors, and they cannot be taken seriously. Luo Ren is neither a devil nor a saint. They drank and exchanged cups until the evening. The setting sun was about to fall in the sky, and a beam of red shone in the hall. Woo woo woo. Suddenly, someone started crying, attracting everyone's attention, and Luo Ren was no exception. I saw an officer crying with his head in his hands. Luo Ren didn't know why at first, but when he saw the sadness in the eyes of others, he immediately understood that this person was crying for Yuhu City. Luo Ren didn't stop them and let them feel sad. After a long time, the crying sound gradually became smaller and soon disappeared. The officer wiped away his tears and looked at Luo Ren, who was in a high position. He thought that Luo Ren would stop him, but unexpectedly, Luo Ren let him cry. At this moment, the sadness in his eyes turned into relief. This scene fell into Luo Ren's eyes. He looked at other officers and saw that they were also relieved. This was beyond him expectation. He had not made any speeches to let these people surrender to the base in spirit. Just sitting and watching, these people actually surrendered on their own. Could it be that this is the way of doing nothing? Just when Luo Ren was stunned, a hawk sounded and brought him back to his senses in an instant. He would never forget this familiar voice in his life. "Flat-haired beast." Luo Ren cursed and rushed out of the hall. The speed was so fast that the officers only felt a shadow flashing past their eyes, and then the high seat was empty, without Luo Ren's figure. Outside the lobby, it was already evening, and the dusk in the sky was showing the beauty of nature. Luo Ren had no mood to appreciate this beautiful scenery. He looked up at the sky, and a familiar figure appeared in his field of vision, hovering in the sky. It was the Goshawk that had snatched the quasi level 3 power zombie during the day. "Asshole, if I could fly, I would definitely pluck all your hair." Luo Ren gritted his teeth and cursed. "What? A big bird?" Chen Yun came out of the lobby and saw Luo Ren staring at the sky in surprise. She couldn't help but look up. When she saw the Goshawk, she was shocked. It was the first time she saw such a big bird. The eagle's eyesight is excellent. Even at a height of several thousand meters, it can see a small mouse on the ground clearly. At this time, it saw Luo Ren, the human who helped it hunt, and greeted it in a strange language, and couldn't help but let out a high-pitched eagle to express its gratitude. However, To Luo Ren's ears, the word eagle was a naked provocation and humiliation, making him raise his middle finger towards the eagle without caring about his image. Chapter 184. Is there really nothing else? Part 2. The goshaw hovered in the sky for more than half an hour, before fluttering its wings, and leaving in the direction of Sunset Reed before leaving. It did not forget to make a high-pitched eagle cry point then. Luo Ren raised his middle finger regardless of his image point. Although he was angry, Luo Ren did not lose his mind. He looked at the departing goshawk and thought to himself, this flat-haired beast came here, and circled for a few times, then flew away without any intention of attacking. Could it be that he is addicted to picking up leaks? Looking for an opportunity? This made Luo Ren even more furious, but after thinking about it for a while, he felt that this was not the correct answer. As for the correct answer, he didn't know. After all, he couldn't read minds. Even if it can read minds, it is only for people, but there is no mind reading for birds. No longer thinking about it, Luo Ren returned to the lobby, followed by Chen Yun and others. Time flies, and in a blink of an eye, the sun sets, and the world plunges into darkness. Luo Ren saw the sky outside the house, and felt that it was almost time. After being polite, he announced that the banquet was over, and the officers happily dispersed. Chen Yun also wanted to leave, but was stopped by Luo Ren point, because of the power shortage. Even the lobby of the city lord's mansion can only be illuminated by candles. This is considered good. Ordinary families can only get a kerosene lamp at most, but the light is weak, and not as good as a candle point. The room was full of candlelight, giving it a rather romantic atmosphere, as carefree as Chen Yun. Being alone in a room with Luo Ren at this time, she couldn't help but feel a little reserved. She didn't know why Luo Ren called her alone, so her inner activities were extremely rich. Why did he leave me alone? As she thought about it, her cheeks became rosy involuntarily, like a ripe apple, making people want to take a big bite. Luo Ren stood up slowly, and took a few steps forward. The sound of footsteps was extremely clear in the empty lobby. When Chen Yun heard this, her heart beat faster. She swallowed and thought to herself, are we going to start? I'm not ready yet. How should I do those difficult poses? Naturally, Luo Ren didn't know what Chen Yun was thinking. He felt strange when he saw her blushing, and thought to himself, you are drinking water, so you shouldn't be drunk. However, he did not ask any more questions, but said to himself, I have asked you to stay here. Tomorrow I will send troops to shelter city number 1. At that time, as you said before I come back, you whose city you have the final say. Similarly, you are also responsible for the defense. In view of your wisdom, to reduce your burden, I will leave one person to assist you in the defense of Afterglow City. When Chen Yun heard this, she was stunned for a moment. She quickly came to her senses and asked, you kept me here just to say this? Yeah. What do you think? Luo Ren asked. The blush on Chen Yun's face had not receded. She touched her nose awkwardly, her eyes wandering, and she excused herself. I thought you wanted me to take the whole city to the base on my own. Luo Ren shook his head, and said very seriously, there is no need to rush the population relocation. There are more than 100,000 people and the distance is far away. If we move at once, the target is too big and the protection is too difficult. Even if the guard army guards the whole process, it will be difficult keeping everyone safe. After a moment of pause, Luo Ren looked out the door and called, Luo Wu, come in. As soon as he finished speaking, a person walked in from the door. It was Luo Wu. Luo Wu had taken 7 level 1 evolutionary crystals, and was already at the level of a level 1 peak evolver. He also had the combat experience required, and his strength was above Chen Yun. Luo Wu came to Luo Ren, and stood at attention, saluted and said, Sir. Luo Ren pointed at Luo Wu, and said to Chen Yun, get to know Luo Wu, the squadron leader of the escort army. He will stay to assist you. Immediately afterwards, he introduced Luo Wu, this is Chen Yun. We will send troops to shelter city number 1 tomorrow. You stay to help her with the defense of Afterhu city. Yes. Luo Wu responded. Chen Yun looked at Luo Wu, slightly, and said, including temperament, he can score 8 points. Although the voice was small, Luo Ren heard it very clearly in the quiet lobby. He couldn't help but frown slightly and asked, "What 8 points?" Chen Yun was not shy and explained, "This is the score I give to men. As long as the man reaches a score of 7 or above, he is my type." As she spoke, she stared at Luo Wu and licked her lips greedily. Luo Ren was speechless. What kind of weird thing was this? He had never heard of female perverts. Today he finally saw what a real female pervert was. However, he was also curious about how many points he could score with Chen Yun, so, driven by curiosity, he asked shamelessly, "Then, see how many points I can score?" Chen Yun was a little surprised that Luo Ren would ask this, so she shook her head and said seriously, "No difference." What? No separation? These 3 words shocked Luo Ren's young heart. Every time he looked in the mirror, he was reluctant to leave. He wished he could take a few sips at himself in the mirror. But now, when he came to Chen Yun, he didn't have any separation, which simply made him doubt himself. Looking at baffled Luo Wu, he saw that, although Luo Wu looked indifferent, a slight sense of pride could still be seen in his eyes. Luo Ren glared at Luo Wu, who couldn't help but dodge his eyes. Luo Ren then looked at Chen Yun and asked unconvinced, "Explain to me why I didn't get points." Seeing Luo Ren getting anxious, Chen Yun quickly explained, "When I said no score, it didn't mean simply no score, but that you are the most I have ever seen." Chen Yun tried to use her vocabulary, and after a long time, she uttered with difficulty, "A handsome and free-spirited person, so I can't give a score, because it is not enough to describe it with a score. You want to say handsome and unrestrained." Luo Ren instinctively complained in a low voice. He was still very satisfied with this explanation, and immediately glanced at Luo Wu proudly. "You have good vision." Luo Ren praised, and then said, "Okay, the matter has been explained. You can go back and rest." "Oh." Chen Yun responded, then turned around and walked away, but after a few steps, she turned back and asked unwillingly, "Really, that's all? There is nothing else?" Luo Ren said calmly, "That's all, nothing else." "Oh." Chen Yun turned back helplessly, continued to walk, and walked out of the door under Luo Ren's gaze, and her figure disappeared. Luo Ren retracted his gaze, waited for more than 10 seconds, then looked at Luo Wu. Just as he was about to speak, suddenly, a pair of hands grabbed the door frame, poked out a head, and asked again, "Sir, I'm really leaving. Do you really have nothing else to do?" This sudden voice scared Luo Ren. Seeing Chen Yun's face, the more he looked at it, the more he wanted to take off his shoes and throw it at her. He waved his hand and said helplessly, "Really, there's nothing left. Go back quickly." Chen Yun's whole body was exposed, shrugged, with a look of loss, and said in a very aggrieved tone, "Okay, goodbye, sir." Luo Ren walked quickly to the door, and watched Chen Yun disappear into the darkness. He waited for another 2 or 3 minutes, then closed the door, walked quickly to Luo Wu, leaned close to his ear, and whispered, "Leave you here, first to help Chen Yun organize the city defense, and second, to monitor her. As long as she does anything that is not conducive to Chiang City, you can directly." Chapter 185, Assisting Shelter City Number 1, Dark clouds obscured the bright moon, and stars dotted the night sky. Luo Ren left the city lord's mansion and immediately summoned squadron leaders such as Luo Shan, Luo Ji, and Luo Li. Several guards surrounded the general tent, looking around with sharp eyes, not allowing any irrelevant people to approach. In the tent, Luo Ren sat with a group of squadron leaders. After a quick glance, everyone was ready. Luo Ren said, "Right now, the problem of Yuhu City has been solved. The next step is Shelter City Number 1. Before that, we need to finalize the plan." Luo Ren thought for a while, looked at Luo Shan, and asked, "What is the maximum transmission distance of the armored vehicles onboard intercom?" The armored vehicles onboard intercom is military grade. If it is an unobstructed plane, the theoretical maximum transmission distance is 15 kilometers, and the actual transmission distance can reach 10 to 12 kilometers. As for our environment, which is a terrain with fewer obstacles, the theoretical maximum transmission distance is 10 kilometers, and the actual transmission distance should be 5 to 7 kilometers. Luo Shan said without thinking. This knowledge has been deeply ingrained in his mind, and he doesn't need to think about it deliberately. As long as he mentions it, he can automatically call it out. 5 to 7 kilometers. Luo Ren stroked his chin and muttered in a low voice. After thinking for a long time, his eyes flashed and he said, "Enough." Then he looked up at the people sitting around and said, "I have thought of the plan. It's like this. We will send troops to Sanctuary City number 1 tomorrow morning. If we encounter a quasi level 3 zombie group on the way, we will go to war directly. If you don't encounter a quasi level 3 zombie group, you will be stationed 5 to 7 kilometers away from Sanctuary City number 1, and then I will lead a small team to Sanctuary City number 1 first. You will wait for my order on the spot before taking action. Point remember. 4. Luo Ren's plan. Whether it was Luo Shan, Luo Ji or Luo Li, they all believed in it, naturally had no other opinions, and then said in unison, "Remember." Yes. Luo Ren nodded slightly and continued, "The battle plan is confirmed. Then we will send troops to number 1 Sanctuary City at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning." After that, he waved his hand and said, "In this case, the meeting ends here. You go back and rest early and get enough energy." "Yes, sir." "Goodbye." Several squadron leaders stood up at the same time, saluted, and then left this place and returned to their temporary residences. The eagle flew in the sky, and the sound of the eagle startled the sky and stopped the clouds. Luo Ren was just a light sleep, and he woke up immediately after hearing the sound of the eagle, walked out of the military tent, and looked up at the sky. It was still the familiar figure. This time Luo Ren did not get angry, but just watched the eagle circling quietly. He thought to himself, "The eagle is catching the chicks. I'm not a chick. Why is this thing coming again?" Looking down at the time, it was exactly 7:30. There was still half an hour before the departure. Luo Ren was no longer sleepy. He looked at the hawk circling in the sky and went to wash up. The man washed up very quickly. He spent 5 minutes brushing his teeth and 1 minute washing his face. It only took 6 minutes to do it all. It was 7:40 and there were still 20 minutes before the departure. He didn't need to call. Luo Shan, Luo Ji, Luo Li, and the guards had already woken up and were ready. They were just waiting for his order to set off. Luo Ren was not a person who liked to waste time. Since everyone was ready, he cleared his throat and said loudly, "Let's go." Buzz buzz buzz, the tanks and armored vehicles started up with a deafening roar, attracting the attention of the patrolling soldiers of Yuhu City. However, when they saw that it was the guards, they immediately retracted their gaze and didn't care. The car left the north gate and headed north. The goal was clear, which was Sanctuary City No. 1. Yuhu City was nearly 20 kilometers away from Sanctuary City number 1. After about 10 minutes, the speed of the convoy gradually slowed down. According to the speed of the car, the current location was about 6 or 7 kilometers away from Sanctuary City number 1. After driving at the lowest speed for a while, Luo Ren ordered to stop the car, jumped on the roof, looked around, and did not notice anything unusual. In this way, he waited for another 10 minutes, but no zombies appeared. Luo Ren immediately told Luo Shan and others to arrange personnel to stay in front of the walkie-talkie at all times, waiting for his orders, and then picked a team of 10 people and called an armored vehicle to drive to Sanctuary City number 1. Sanctuary City number 1, command tent. Old Song, a middle-aged officer with gold-rimmed glasses, sat in the command position. Deputy Commander Zhao Chuan went to the base for help. At present, he is the highest leader of Sanctuary City number 1. His fingers tapped the table, making a da-da-da sound. This sound had no rhythm, and it can be seen that Old Song was anxious. The ammunition was running low, and it had been 3 days since Deputy Commander Zhao Chuan went to the base. He didn't know whether Luo Ren had sent troops. This was why Old Song was anxious. Buzz swish, the roar of the engine, followed by the sound of the car door opening and closing, and then a burst of hurried footsteps, and then Old Song heard, "I have something important to report to Chief of Staff Song. Let me in quickly." "Wait a minute, I'll go ask Chief of Staff Song." As soon as the voice fell, a man lifted the curtain of the military tent and walked in. He saluted first, and just as he was about to speak, Old Song said first, "I heard it all. Let the people outside come in." "Yes." After a while, a soldier of the Kingdom Army walked into the military tent, saluted first, and then said, "Report to the Chief of Staff." A team of guards came outside the south gate. "Should we open the gate and let them in?" "The guards are here. Liu Song was overjoyed when he heard this and said repeatedly, "Quick, take me over. I want to greet you personally." The escort was here to save them, and he, the highest official in the city, had to greet them personally. Without stopping, Liu Song took a vehicle and arrived at the South City gate in a few minutes. After getting off the car, he hurriedly ordered the city gate to be opened. The city gate slowly opened, and Liu Song looked expectantly outside the city. When he saw only one armored vehicle slowly approaching, instead of the 10 tanks or hundreds of armored vehicles in his impression, his whole body was filled with excitement. Stunned point after the armored vehicle drove in, and the city was closed again, Liu Song rubbed his eyes vigorously, and then confirmed that he had seen correctly. There was really only one armored vehicle. This made him a little disappointed. The small armored vehicle could only hold 20 people at most, which was a drop in the bucket for Sanctuary City number 1, and had little effect. However, he still kept a smile on his face and greeted him. In the car, Luo Ren pressed the button on the intercom and said, "I'm Luo Ren, can you hear me?" Sizzling. After several bursts of electricity, Luo Shan's voice came from the intercom. "I'm Luo Shan, reporting to the commander. You can hear me?" When Luo Ren heard this, he felt relieved. What he was most worried about along the way was that the walkie-talkie could not transmit such a long distance. Now that it was better, he no longer had to worry about this problem. The stone hanging in his heart had finally fallen to the ground. "I have arrived at Sanctuary City number 1. You are waiting for orders," Luo Ren said to the walkie-talkie. "Roger." Luo Shan's voice came from the intercom again. Luo Ren smiled slightly, opened the door, and got out of the car, and immediately saw a middle-aged man with gold-rimmed eyes coming up with a smile. Chapter 186, Assisting Shelter City number 1, Part 2. Liu Song couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised when he saw that the person getting out of the car was Luo Ren. His original disappointment was dispelled. At that time, his heart was full of doubts. Even if Luo Ren came in person, it was a bit strange why there was only one car full of people. Although he was doubtful in his heart, Liu Song kept smiling, and his face was full of wrinkles, making him, a middle-aged man, look like an old man in his 60s. "I'm sorry for making you wait so long, Sir Luo Ren. I hope you'll forgive me." Liu Song stopped about 3 steps away from Luo Ren and said apologetically. Then he took 2 steps forward, stretched out his right hand, and said, "Let me introduce myself. I'm Song Ming, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Wasteland Military Region. I'm fully responsible for presiding over the current affairs in the city. It doesn't matter, it's because I didn't notify you in advance." Luo Ren and Liu Song held hands together and said with a smile, "Luo Ren." Old Song laughed, let go of his hand, made a gesture, and said, "Please follow me in the car. We will immediately go to the command tent to hold a meeting on how to deal with zombies." Luo Ren stood still, shook his head and said, "No, I have already made a plan. I need to know some information from you now." "Oh." Old Song was taken aback, then slightly and said, "If Chief Luo Ren wants to know anything, just ask. I will tell you everything I know." "From which direction are the siege zombies attacking?" Luo Ren asked. "In the direction of Dongcheng." Liu Song answered directly without thinking. "Towards Dongcheng." Luo Ren thought to himself that if it was not for the attack in the South City, no wonder he only encountered ordinary zombies blocking his way along the way. It turned out that a large army of zombies was hiding outside the East City Point. If this is the case, the sandwich tactic cannot be implemented because it is impossible for the troops to take a detour to the east of Shelter City number 1. Not to mention the distance. If there is no satellite map, it is easy to get lost in such a detour, not in the correct position. After much thought, Luo Ren decided to switch tactics. That is, let all the guards enter the city, hide the soldiers number 1 to shelter the city, and then let the royal army pretend to be out of ammunition and food to attract all the zombies. At that time, the guards will pursue them out of the city and kill these zombies. Annihilate them all. This was also the tactic used when Chiang City was attacked by zombies. When Liu Song saw Luo Ren being silent and thinking hard, he felt anxious and asked, "What's the problem, Chief Luo Ren?" After hearing this, Luo Ren came back to his senses, waved his hand, and said with a smile, "It's okay, I was just thinking about something.
In this way, do you have a record of the time when zombies attack the city? Is there a pattern to follow? Luo Song hurriedly said, these zombies will usually launch the first siege from 9 to 10 in the morning, which lasts about an hour, and then they will launch the second siege from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. The duration is also about an hour, then from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, the third siege will be launched. Later on, there will occasionally be a fourth siege, at 9 or 10 o'clock. These zombies really know how to arrange their working hours. Luo Ren couldn't help complaining, and then analyzed, every time the zombies attack the city, the interval will not be less than an hour. Since there is such a pattern, it will be easy to handle. Listening to Luo Ren's murmurings, Luo Song was pleasantly surprised and said, it seems that Chief Luo Ren has a way to deal with these zombies. The method does exist, and there have been successful cases. Luo Ren nodded, and said with a smile. Luo Song was even more surprised, his eyes widened, and he asked hurriedly, what can I do? My plan boom. Just as Luo Ren was telling the plan, the sound of gunfire came from the east of the city, which interrupted him immediately. Everyone present looked to the east of the city. Old Song raised his hand, and looked at the time, and said with a wry smile, the time is up, those people the beasts are already launching their first siege today. Luo Ren's eyesight was excellent. When Luo Song raised his hand to look at his watch, he also glanced at the time on the watch, which was 9:13. From this point of view, these beasts were quite on time. Just in time, we can see what the zombies besieging Sanctuary City number 1 look like. Thinking of this, Luo Ren saw the guard soldiers behind him and ordered, you stay here, I will go to the east of the city to take a look. He turned his head and looked at Old Song. At this time, Old Song also heard his words, turned his head, and the two looked at each other. Luo Ren said, can you please take me to the east gate of the city, Chief of Staff Song? Okay. Luo Song did not hesitate, and made a gesture of invitation. After Luo Ren got on the bus, he got on the bus from the other side, and then said to the driver, the east gate of the city. The vehicle started, and sped towards the east gate of the city. Passing through residential areas along the way, ordinary residents hiding in houses could be seen through the open doors and windows. The roar of vehicles passing by attracted their attention, which also allowed Luo Ren to clearly see the worry and fear on the faces of these residents. A few minutes later, the vehicle arrived at the east gate of the city. Luo Ren got out of the car. At first sight, he saw that the city walls were covered with Royal Army soldiers, holding standard rifles, including several rocket launchers and 2 heavy machine guns. However, they did not fire randomly, but fired in a very bullet-saving manner. Accompanied by Luo Song, they climbed up the city wall. The soldiers guarding the city did not look back when they heard the news, because from time to time people joined in the battle to defend the city. There was a lot of such news, and it was not worth turning back. And even if they look back and see it's Luo Song, or even Xia Chuan, they won't be hypocritically polite, because in battle, 90% of the attention should be focused on the enemy, and the remaining 10% should be focused on waiting on command point. Luo Ren looked outside the city, wondering why the tactics of the quasi level 3 zombies were so unified. As if they had discussed it together. He saw the siege zombies outside the city advancing and retreating, as if there was an invisible red line in front of them. Anyone who crossed the red line would retreat within 20 seconds. Although this red line is invisible, it can be distinguished. It is the effective maximum shooting distance of the bullet. How? Asked Old Song. Luo Ren nodded slightly and said, it is the work of the quasi level 3 zombies. He turned his head to look at Old Song, and then said, the way to deal with these beasts is very simple, that is, to create the illusion of insufficient ammunition, lure out all the zombies, including the quasi level 3 zombies, and then annihilate them in one fell swoop. Old Song heard this, but sighed and said, we have considered this method a long time ago, but the important factors for implementing this method are sufficient ammunition and sufficient military force to annihilate the quasi level 3 zombie group. We don't have these 2 items in number 1 Sanctuary City. Therefore, this method is not applicable. If you insist on implementing it, the final outcome should be the destruction of the city and the death of people. Luo Ren laughed and said, although Sanctuary City number 1 does not have such troops, the guards do.
Thousands of guards are stationed 5 or 6 kilometers outside the South City, waiting for my order. I thought that the zombies would launch a siege against the South City, so I could use the sandwich tactics, but I didn't expect the zombies to launch a siege against the East City. Therefore, I asked you about the time of the zombie siege, so that I could take advantage of the gap in between to let the guards enter the city without alerting the zombies, and then cooperate with the Kingdom Army to wipe out the quasi-level 3 zombie group in one fell swoop. Chapter 187, Seeing Injustice, Part 1. Old Song was overjoyed when he heard this. He finally understood why Luo Ren only brought a small group of people. It turned out that the large forces were stationed 5 or 6 kilometers outside the city, waiting for his orders at any time point. Surprised, Old Song sighed repeatedly. Okay, Commander Luo Ren really has a brilliant move. Old Song, am at your disposal. The zombie siege lasted for about an hour and was finally over. The zombies retreated. After about 10 minutes, all the zombies disappeared from the sight of everyone on the scene. After waiting for about half an hour, Luo Ren returned to the south of the city, came to the armored vehicle, pressed the intercom button, and said, I'm Luo Ren. Ren, please answer if you hear me. Sizzling. There were a few blasts of electricity, and as expected, Luo Shan's words came from the intercom. I'm Luo Shan. Received. Luo Ren didn't waste any time and directly ordered, Luo Shan, please arrange for the brothers to station in Sanctuary City number 1. Remember not to have the whole army come at the same time. The movement should be small. It is best to have 5 to 10 armored vehicles in each batch, with intervals between each batch. 10 minutes up. Luo Shan responded, Roger it. The distance of 5 or 6 kilometers takes about more than an hour on foot, but the speed of a vehicle is much faster than that of walking. Even a low-speed driving of 40 kilometers per hour only takes a few minutes. 2.5 hours later, 80 armored vehicles had entered Sanctuary City number 1. At the same time, the zombies were ready to move and launch the second siege of the day a few minutes later. After receiving the news, Luo Ren immediately issued an order through the intercom to suspend the operation. The second siege also lasted an hour. Half an hour after the zombies evacuated, Luo Ren gave the order again, and the operation continued. Before we knew it, it was getting late, and today's third zombie siege had ended for more than 4 hours at that time. Luo Ren was standing on the South City wall. His ears moved slightly, and he could hear the roar of the engine. As time passed, the roar became louder, until he could see 7 tanks breaking through the darkness. Behind him, Luo Song exclaimed, the guards' military strength is really strong. I remember that the guards only dispatched 10 tanks when we cooperated last time. I didn't expect that there were still some hidden tanks. Luo Ren smiled slightly and said nothing. At this time, the tank approached the city and the city gate opened to let the tank pass. After watching 7 tanks enter the city, Luo Ren turned around, saw Luo Song, and said, all the guards have settled in Sanctuary City No. 1. Starting tomorrow, when facing the zombies, the Royal Army will shoot with full fire without worrying about ammunition. Old Song nodded solemnly to express his understanding. Luo Ren walked down the stairs, and saw Luo Shan come out of the tank and trot towards him. Then he saluted and said, Sir. He smiled slightly and said, go and rest quickly. There may be a tough battle tomorrow. Yes. Luo Shan saluted again, and then left point watching the 7 tanks leave, until they disappeared around the corner. Luo Ren withdrew his gaze, and said to Luo Song, deaths are inevitable in battle. Someone from the Royal Army may die tomorrow, so be mentally prepared. Old Song was stunned for a moment, then smiled calmly and said, in such an environment, death can be seen everywhere. I have always been mentally prepared to accept the sacrifice of my comrades around me, and my own death. Seeing that Luo Song was so open-minded, Luo Ren said, go to rest early, and left with his hands behind his hands. He did not take a vehicle, but walked on foot, walking on the gravel mixed with dirt streets. At this late hour of the night, most of the residents were at home, preparing to sleep. Only the patrolling Royal Army soldiers who were occasionally seen were still in good spirits. Hurry up and hand over the food, or I'll kill you. After walking for a while, suddenly, there was a man's shout from the house across the street on the right, and the sound of something falling to the ground. Luo Ren stopped, and turned his head to look at the source of the sound. Please. Do me a favor. My son is sick. I finally got this to give him some nutrition. Without this food, he will die." At this time, a woman's voice came from the house, miserable, pleading, and sad. These were the words Luo Ren thought of to describe this woman's voice. "Stop talking nonsense. Your son should have died for his looks. Besides, his life and death is none of my business. Give me the food quickly, or I will kill him now." The man's voice sounded again, full of ruthlessness and cold blood. I can let you do it, but please leave the food for me, okay?" The woman pleaded. "Looking at your dirty look, I'm not interested. Let go quickly. Do you hear me? Or I'll do it." The man sternly reprimanded. "Don't." One bang. The sound of smashing was heard, and then the woman screamed in pain, but it stopped abruptly, and then the man was heard threateningly saying, "If you have to do it, don't scream, or I will kill you and your son." Luo Ren frowned slightly, hesitated for a while, then walked across the road, and came to the house. At this moment, click, a simple door made of several wooden boards was pushed open from the inside, and a man sneaked in. He stuck his head out to check, and when he saw Luo Ren, he was immediately startled. Immediately afterwards, when the man saw that Luo Ren's clothes were not from the royal army, he breathed a relief, glared at Luo Ren, then swaggered out with a cloth bag, and was about to leave. "Wait." Luo Ren called to the man. The man turned back, looked Luo Ren up and down, and then a face came close to Luo Ren. Seeing this face full of flesh and flesh, Luo Ren looked indifferent. The man glared at Luo Ren fiercely and scolded, "Get out." Then, the man turned around and wanted to leave, but Luo Ren grabbed his shoulder. When he felt his shoulders being clasped, the man immediately became impatient. He spat on the ground and cursed in a low voice, "You bitch." He turned around with fierce eyes, pointed at Luo Ren and threatened, "The rice is mine. Don't try to steal it from the tiger's mouth. Don't think I'm thin. I kill without blinking an eye." As he spoke, he also opened the corner of his clothes, revealing a rusty dagger. "I don't want the rice, but this rice doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people in the house. I give you 5 seconds to return it to its original owner." Luo Ren said calmly. "Yo, so you yell when you see injustice on the road and want to be a hero. Okay, I'll let you be," the man said with a disdainful smile. At the same time, his eyes became increasingly sinister, and he suddenly pulled out the dagger from his waist, stabbed Luo Ren in the abdomen, and said sternly, "I will make you see injustice on the road." He smiled ferociously, as if he could already feel the warmth of the blood splashed on his hands. However, the next moment, his expression froze instantly, as if his wrist was clamped by an iron pliers, and the dagger could no longer move half an inch. And then click, a sound. The severe pain of broken bones immediately filled his nerves, and his face turned red for several seconds. He opened his mouth wide and let out a piercing scream, waking up the surrounding residents, and also alerting the Royal Army soldiers patrolling another street. Chapter 188, Seeing Injustice, Part 2. It hurts. The man kept shouting in pain, and the noise became even louder. The residents who were in the house carefully pushed the door open a small crack, or opened the window and cast their eyes in this direction. Read under the gaze of these people, Luo Ren kicked the man several meters away, and threw him heavily to the ground. His wrist bones were crushed, and he was kicked again in the stomach. The man squirmed, his mouth wide open, and he was drooling uncontrollably. His eyes widened, as if he was brewing something. At the same time, a person wandered out of the room, where the man came out. It was a woman. She looked to be in her 40s or 50s, but Luo Ren guessed that she was actually in her 30s. The woman had a bruise on her face and a shoe mark on her chest. She covered her chest, and was unsteady on her feet. She coughed slightly from time to time. It looked like she had been beaten by the man who had robbed the food. She saw the man lying on the ground, looking in pain, and there was no emotion in her eyes. Then she saw the small bag of food on the ground, and a trace of desire flashed in her eyes. However, she had already noticed Luo Ren, so how could she dare to pick up the small bag? Food. Luo rented down, and opened the cloth bag to see that there was rice squat mixed with rice husks. He picked up the small bag of rice, and looked at the woman. The woman stared at the bag, her eyes never leaving, but when Luo Ren looked at him, Her eyes immediately dodge, and she was very afraid to look into Luo Ren's eyes. The woman thought to herself that Mizang might not come back, so she turned around and walked towards the house. Wait a minute. Luo Ren saw that she was about to leave and called out. When the woman heard this, she trembled all over, turned around nervously, lowered her head, and did not dare to look directly at Luo Ren. Luo Ren stood up, walked to her, and extended his hand. The woman immediately took a few steps back in fright, waved her hands repeatedly, and said, "I don't want any more rice." Well, Luo Ren sighed, took a few steps forward, handed the rice to the woman, and said softly, "This rice originally belonged to you. How could you not want it? Didn't you say that your son is sick and needs to supplement some nutrition? Take it." The woman was shocked when she heard this and could hardly believe her ears. She mustered up the courage to raise her head and saw that the man in front of her was young. His eyes were kind and sincere, and he was not trying to make fun of her. Thinking of her sick son, she mustered up the courage to carefully take the rice bag with both hands. After she succeeded, she would kneel down and kowtow to express her gratitude. Luo Ren, with quick eyesight and quick hands, held him up and said, "I don't like this. Thank you, thank you." Tears fell from the corners of the woman's eyes, like opening a dike to release water. Unstoppable herself and unstoppable. She kept saying words of thanks, and she could only express her gratitude in words, because apart from, she had nothing else of value. The man in front of her was young and handsome, and he definitely looked down on her, so she could only express her gratitude in this way. Seeing this appearance, Luo Ren also felt soft in his heart. As the saying goes, save people to the end, and send Buddha to the west. Since you have taken action, please help if you can. You said your son is sick? Luo Ren asked. The woman wiped her tears, nodded, and replied, "Yes, it has been several days, and there has been no improvement at all. There is no hospital or doctor now. If this continues," she said, wiping her tears and forcing out a bitter smile. He said, "It all depends on fate. Maybe my son will be fine after eating the porridge made from these rice." Although she was smiling, Luo Ren could see the despair in her eyes. In fact, the woman knows very well that these rice cannot provide much nutrition, let alone save her son's life. She is just lying to herself. Her father, mother, parents-in-law, and husband are all dead. Now, her son is her only hope of living. She lied to herself like this, just to give herself an idea of survival. If her son died, maybe she would be liberated. Luo Ren cannot save everyone from the suffering in the world, and it is impossible to save everyone, but meeting him is fate. He said, "Take me to see your son." The woman looked at Luo Ren in shock, once again thinking that she had heard wrong. "Isn't your son sick? Take me to see your son first. Maybe I can cure your son's disease," Luo Ren said. "Ah." The woman was startled, and the rice in her hand fell to the ground. She didn't care about picking up the rice on the ground. Her whole body was shaking with excitement. She didn't know where the courage came from, which made her dare to look directly at Luo Ren and asked excitedly, said, "Can you really save my son?" Luo Ren was about to answer when the sound of neat footsteps sounded, and then he heard the whispers of the surrounding residents. "It's the patrol team. This young man is done. If he doesn't run away after beating someone, he will be beaten if he is caught by the patrol." The man lying on the ground also recovered a little. When he saw the patrol, he endured the pain and crawled to the feet of the patrol soldiers. The villain first complained, "Sir, you have to make the decision for me. I'm walking on the road, and that kid has no chance. If you hit me for no reason, look at my hands." The patrol soldier who looked like a captain squatted down to check the man's injuries. The expression became gradually serious. After a long time, he looked up at Luo Ren in front of him and said angrily, "It is clearly stated that you are not allowed to hurt others. Boy, I think you are showing contempt for the city regulation. Come on, tie me up." The patrol captain waved his hand, and the two men next to him immediately stepped forward to tie up Luo Ren. Luo Ren turned around and saw two patrolling soldiers and said calmly, "You want to tie me up? If you violate city rules, you will be kidnapped," shouted a patrol soldier. "Stop. After Luo Ren turned around, the patrol leader saw Luo Ren's face and was shocked. Although not all of the people in the patrol were Royal Army soldiers, those at the patrol captain level were all Royal Army soldiers. He recognized that the person he wanted to kidnap was a guard. The supreme commander of the army, Luo Ren, immediately screamed. He hurriedly stepped forward, grabbed the two patrolling soldiers, and pulled them back. Then, under the puzzled looks of the two patrolling soldiers, he flattered and said with a smile, "My little eyes are clumsy. I didn't realize it was you, Chief Luo Ren, right away. Why? Please forgive me." The corner of Luo Ren's mouth curled up. Since someone recognized him, there was no need to bother. He pointed at the man and said, "This man broke into the house, robbed, injured others, and wanted to kill me. You know how to deal with it." Bah. Yes, I understand. The patrol leader nodded like a chicken pecking at rice, and then ordered, "This person dares to murder Commander Luo. He is committing a heinous crime. You two, please imprison him until he is dealt with." After saying that, he looked at Luo Ren and said with an apologetic expression, "Sorry, Chief Luo, I'm just the patrol leader. I cannot abuse the power of death penalty unless there is an extraordinary moment. However, don't worry, I will report it to my superiors immediately after I return. Punish this person severely." Chapter 189 Mother and Son, Part 1. When the man saw the patrol leader nodding and bowing to the man who beat him, and saying that he would be severely punished, he immediately knew that he had offended a big shot, and he couldn't help but be scared to death and his whole body was paralyzed. Luo Ren could basically guess the man's fate, so he didn't care too much. He waved his hand and said, "Okay, you can handle it yourself." Such a change made the onlookers look at Luo Ren with fear in their eyes. Although they did not know Luo Ren's specific identity, the scene just now made them understand that this young man's identity was unusual. At least they could not afford to offend him. Luo Ren turned around and saw the woman froze in fear and said calmly, "Let's go." Without waiting for the woman to answer, he walked into the house. The house was very small and only lit by an oil lamp. Therefore, the light was relatively dim. If you have poor eyesight, it would be easy to bump into the corners of the furniture or the simple wooden walls. Get up close and personal. Luo Ren paused for a while, then took a step. With just one step, he kicked something foreign. When he looked down, he saw a mess on the ground, including fragments of porcelain bowls, dented aluminum pots, etc. It should have been caused by the man just now. At this time, the woman hurried in. Now she knew that the man in front of her was a big shot and had the ability to help his son cure his illness. Therefore, she was both scared and happy. Luo Ren heard the noise and knew that a woman had come in, so he asked, "Where is your son?" The woman walked forward cautiously and then opened the door curtain. Inside was a small bedroom, so small that a bed took up 2/3 of the space. The remaining space was very small and could accommodate one person and two people. Seems very crowded. The woman walked into the bedroom and lit a candle that was less than 3 centimeters long. Although it was short, it was powerful and its light was much brighter than an oil lamp. Candle light filled the small bedroom, and Luo Ren saw a boy lying on the bed. He looked about 10 years old, with a pale face, sunken eye sockets, and a weak breath. He took a step forward, reached out and touched the boy's forehead with his arm. The moment he touched it, he felt a heat. Even if he was not a doctor, he could tell that the boy was severely malnourished and had a high fever. If the situation is not treated in time, the boy will die in a few days. "What's your name?" Luo Ren suddenly asked. The woman pointed at herself, opened her mouth and asked, "Sir, are you asking me? Besides you, me, and your son, is there anyone else here?" Luo Ren asked. After receiving confirmation, the woman quickly replied, "My name is Jing, and my son's name is Li Zia." "Yeah." Luo Ren nodded slightly, and then said, "Okay, Jing, I'm not a doctor, but based on my experience, your son should have a high fever due to malnutrition. It needs to be treated as soon as possible, otherwise it will be life-threatening. Sir, please save my son. As long as you save him, I'm willing to work as a horse for you." Jing knelt down with a plop and said while wiping her tears, "Get up. Since I have seen your son, I will naturally save him."
Luo Ren thought for a while and said, in this case, you hold him and come with me. The woman wiped away her tears, got up from the ground, and then picked up her son Li Zia. The child's head was groggy due to the high fever. His eyelids were so heavy that they dropped straight down, and his whole body had no strength and was extremely weak. He felt someone hugging him, smelled his mother's scent, and habitually put his hand on his mother's shoulder. Let's go. Luo Ren said something and walked out of the house, followed closely by Zhajing holding her son. When the three people appeared, the onlookers immediately turned their heads back. Seeing that Luo Ren didn't pay attention to them, they looked away again and muttered something to each other. Jing is lucky to meet such a kind-hearted and important person. Yes, it's good luck. Her son is saved. Humph, you're lucky to step on shit. Good luck. I hooked up with a big shot. Some people feel lucky for Zhajing, while others are jealous of Zhajing, and their words are full of yin and yang. Luo Ren took Zhajing to the place where the escort army was stationed. Zhajing was shocked when she saw rows of armored vehicles and 12 steel beasts. The soldiers who saw them again were very polite to Luo Ren and saluted proactively. Calling him sir shocked her even more. Luo Ren glanced around and saw candlelight still burning in a military tent, and there were sounds of people talking, so he walked over. Entering the military tent, I saw Luo Shan and the later guardsmen eating dinner. What they ate was military food, which was not considered delicious to them. They were even a little tired of eating too much, but they looked at Zia. Jing swallowed greedily. When several people saw Luo Ren coming in, they immediately stood up, saluted, and said, Sir Luo Shan, come here, others can continue eating. Luo Ren pressed his hand down and said. Luo Shan stepped forward, glanced at Li Zia who was holding Zhajing and her arms, and then looked away, waiting for Luo Ren's order. Did you bring any medical supplies for this expedition? Luo Ren asked. Sir, yes. Luo Shan said. Luo Ren felt happy and ordered, go and get some medical supplies, and by the way, get some food. Yes. Luo Shan responded and walked out of the military tent to get medical supplies and food. Luo Ren found a chair and said to Zhajing, sit down. Zhajing was very reserved. She didn't dare to sit down at first. Only after Luo Ren's repeated persuasion did she sit down carefully, not looking straight at him, for fear of seeing some secrets that she shouldn't see. Her ears also automatically blocked other people's voices, for fear of hearing some secrets that she shouldn't hear. Luo Ren looked at Li Zia in Zhajing's arms. Her face was still as pale as before. He looked down and saw that Li Zia's fist was tightly clenched into a fist. It was bulging, and he must be holding something. This aroused Luo Ren's curiosity, and he immediately asked, what is your son holding in his hand? Zhajing heard this and looked at her son's hand. Since this adult was curious, she would take a look. She gently opened her son's palm. Click, a spherical object fell to the ground and rolled right under Luo Ren's feet. He bent down to pick up the ball and took a look. It was round and looked like the marbles he played with when he was a child, but the workmanship of this thing was much better than marbles. In this dim environment, it also emitted a faint fluorescent light, which looked like the night shining pearls that often appeared in ancient costume TV dramas. Seeing the true appearance of the ball, Luo Ren's curiosity was satisfied, so he returned the glass bead to Zhajing. Zhajing took the glass bead and put it away carefully. The two waited for a while, and the curtain of the military tent was lifted. Luo Shan came back, holding a medical box in one hand and military food in the other. Luo Ren asked General Luo Shan to give Zhajing food, and then asked, can children get the antipyretic injection and the medical box? Hearing this, Luo Shan subconsciously looked at Zhajing and her son, then nodded heavily and said, yes, but only half the dose is enough. That's good. Li Zia is left to you. Luo Ren said. Although Luo Shan is not a medical soldier, as a soldier, simple medical methods such as injections and bandaging are necessary military skills. Zhajing saw this scene and shed tears of emotion uncontrollably. Author's words. Happy Dragon Boat Festival. Starting tomorrow, 3 or 4 updates for 3 consecutive days. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel.
Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Mother and Son, Part 2. Luo Shan gave Li Zia a fever-reducing injection and hung a bag of glucose. After all, it was not enough to reduce the fever without supplementing some nutrients. After that, Luo Ren also got a folding bed for Ziying and Li Zia. In this environment, they could only make do with it for one night. Drops of water are like water, and time is like water. With a ticking sound, the night turned into day. Luo Ren woke up and looked at the time. It was 8:32. There were more than 20 minutes left before the zombies would attack the city. He could not afford to slack off. He immediately ordered the entire army to go to the East City and station in front of the city gate point before leaving. Luo Ren came to the military tent point. He lifted the door curtain and saw Ziying lying on the bed, snoring slightly, sleeping soundly. He smiled slightly and was about to leave. Suddenly, he felt someone staring at him and frowned. When he looked up, he saw the little boy Li Zia staring at him with big eyes, as if he was afraid that he was going to do something bad. Luo Ren took a step forward, and the little boy was immediately startled and trembled with fear, but when he saw his mother lying on the bed, he mustered up the courage to glare at Luo Ren. However, his tremor moved the bed and passed it to Ziying. Ziying murmured. Her eyelids moved and then slowly opened. She checked her son first. When she saw that Li Zia had woken up and his face had a little more color, she reached out and touched Li Zia's forehead. It was hot, but much better than yesterday, which could be clearly seen from his mental state. At this moment, Ziying was so excited and happy. After calming down a little, she found that her son was staring at her. She couldn't help but look in the direction of his gaze. She immediately saw Luo Ren and hurriedly stood up, tidied her hair and clothes, walked to Luo Ren and said, "Thank you, sir, for saving my son." She turned back to look at her son and said, "Zia, thanks to Sir Luo Ren for saving you. Otherwise mom really doesn't know what to do." As she spoke, Ziying's tone was filled with tears, and tears couldn't help but slide down from the corners of her eyes. The little boy Li Zia realized that the man in front of him was not a bad person, and not only was he not a bad person, but he was also his lifesaver. So, the vigilance and anger in his eyes disappeared and turned into a mixture of gentleness and gratitude. Although he was only 10 years old. After being tempered in such a big environment, his mind was already more than 10 years old. He tried hard to get up from the bed, but the disease was not healed yet, and he had no strength in his body, and he couldn't get up. As a mother, Ziying understood what Li Zia was going to do, and immediately returned to his side, and helped him half sit up. The little boy Ziying looked at Luo Ren gratefully. Despite his weak body, he mustered all his strength and said, "Thank you." Luo Ren smiled, and thought the little boy was pretty good. He waved his hand and said, "It's just a small favor. If you want to thank me, then make yourself better." Li Zia nodded heavily with a resolute look. This was completely listening to Luo Ren's words. Luo Ren smiled, then looked at the time. It was already past 80. He said, "You have a good rest. I have something to do." "Oh, wait, when?" Luo Ren was about to leave, the little boy suddenly called him. He turned around and looked at the little boy in confusion. He saw that the little boy Li Zia raised his clenched right hand and spread it out. There was nothing inside. He immediately looked at his mother in panic. Her son knew it just by looking at her. Ziying reached into her pocket and said, "The glass beads are here with me." Li Zia was relieved when he saw his mother take out the round beads. When his mother handed them to him, he shook his head and looked at Luo Ren. Ziying understood, holding the small bead in both hands, and walked to Luo Ren, saying, "Sir, although this glass bead is not a valuable item, Zia has always regarded it as a treasure and never leaves it. It is his most valuable thing. I'm his mother. I know that he wants to give this glass bead to you to thank you for saving his life." Luo Ren smiled and shook his head and was about to refuse, but Ziying held the glass bead in both hands, handed it forward, and said sincerely, "Sir, please accept it." Seeing this, Luo Ren looked at Li Zia again and saw that the young face was full of persistence, which made him unable to say the words of refusal on his lips. Helplessly, he could only take the glass bead and said, "Okay, I accept it." Seeing this, Li Ziya smiled, and his mother Ziya Jing saw him smiling, and her face was also full of smiles. She was in her 30s, but she looked like she was in her 40s or 50s. This smile made her face full of wrinkles, making her look even older. Seeing his mother like this, Li Ziya turned away, and a sparkle flashed in his eyes. "Okay, you guys have a good rest. I'm leaving first," Luo Ren said, and then left the military tent. Point outside the military tent, Luo Ren carefully looked at the glass bead, which was round and beautiful. He put it in his pocket and left immediately. 12 tanks and more than 200 armored vehicles passed through the streets and alleys, attracting many residents to watch from afar. This is not Chiang City. Although it is now ruled by the Kingdom Army of the Wasteland Military Region, it is still short and the remaining poison of Yangtze has not been completely eliminated. Therefore, these residents are still very afraid of soldiers with guns, so they dare not get too close. The guards stopped at the gate of the East City Gate and then deployed their formation, just like in Chiang City, with tanks in the front and armored vehicles arranged in a semicircle, with both the puzzle and the muzzle of the gun pointed at the gate point. The soldiers of the Kingdom Army were also amazed at this scene and praised the powerful military force of the Guard Army. Old Song had been waiting at the East Gate for a long time. He waited for the Guard Army to complete its formation before he came up and greeted Captain Luo Ren, Chief of Staff Song. Luo Ren said politely, and then arranged the tactics, saying, "In the siege later, I want the Kingdom Army to shoot with all their strength until the ammunition is exhausted and the situation is declining. You can take out all your remaining ammunition, of course. You can also take out half point. The ammunition taken out will be used up in one battle. The purpose is to attract the large zombie army in the dark, and then I will lead the Guard Army to annihilate them in one fell swoop. In this battle, Luo Ren is the leader, and he, Old Song, only needs to obey orders." But, after Luo Ren finished speaking, he was silent for 5 seconds before he said, "Yes." Then, he went to arrange the command of the Kingdom Army defending the city. He told many officers, "Do Haoyu, take your men to take out half of the remaining ammunition. Ma Ziyang, pass the order down. When the zombies attack the city, everyone should fire at full power, and don't save ammunition." Chen Yi listening to Lao Song's arrangement, Luo Ren thought to himself, this old guy is still a little thoughtful. He only took out half of the ammunition instead of all of it. He complained in his heart, but he actually wouldn't care, and he was too lazy to care. Half or all, as long as the effect can be achieved, there is no problem. Hey. Leaping up, Luo Ren jumped onto the city wall and looked outside the city. From the city wall, there was an open area for nearly a few hundred meters, and behind it were hills. There were tall trees on the hills, which were very suitable for hiding soldiers. Author's words. Happy Dragon Boat Festival everyone. Starting tomorrow, there will be 3 or 4 updates for 3 consecutive days. Chapter 191. War begins. The wind blew from west to east, blowing Luo Ren's hair and clothes. The forest in front of him was blown by the wind, raising a wave of green waves, and making a rustling sound. None of the soldiers of the Kingdom Army on the city wall dared to slack off. They stared straight at the forest, pointed their guns steadily at the front, and maintained a fighting posture. Under the city wall, at the gate, 12 tanks, with their black muzzles uniformly aimed at the gate, and dozens of machine guns were also the same, which was extremely deterrent. Luo Ren raised his hand, and looked at the time. It was already 9 o'clock. At this moment, except for the sound of the wind and the rustling sound of the wind blowing through the forest, there were also the sounds of breathing one after another. Everything else was quiet, and everyone's movement seemed to be frozen. Bump, bump, bump. It was so quiet that Luo Ren seemed to be able to hear his own and other people's heartbeats. He tilted his head to look at other people and saw the Kingdom Army soldiers who were ready for battle, with sharp eyes directed at the forest ahead. The hands holding the butt of the gun turned pale because of the greater force. Old Song, who was wearing gold-rimmed glasses, never left the forest. Even if his eyes were tired, he just rubbed his eyes quickly and immediately looked back. Luo Ren retracted his gaze and also looked at the distant forest. Judging from the performance of others, those zombies should be hiding soldiers in the forest. Tick, tick, Tick. It seems that you can hear the clock and stopwatch moving and feel the passing of time. Suddenly, the sky was startled and the clouds were stopped. The high-pitched eagle pierced the air and pierced the silence of this side. Luo Ren looked up and saw the familiar figure of the Gosh orc. He couldn't help but frown slightly, thinking to himself, is this guy here to steal food from Luo's mouth again? Rustle. Just a moment after the eagle landed, dense footsteps were heard from the forest ahead. All the soldiers of the Kingdom Army immediately tensed their muscles and were blinded by murderous intent. Luo Ren withdrew his gaze from the eagle and looked directly at the forest. Under his gaze, roar, the evolved zombies roared, and dense zombies rushed out of the forest, including level 1 evolved zombies. It took less than a minute for the zombies to cross the red line at a distance of hundreds of meters. All the soldiers of the Kingdom Army guarding the city remembered the order of Chief of Staff Luo Song just now, and they opened fire with all their strength and must conserve ammunition point at the same time. They thought of the majestic and powerful guards under the city wall and behind the city gate, and their morale was boosted. They roared and pulled the trigger, and bullets immediately poured out, forming a hail of bullets. What the zombies who crossed the red line didn't expect was that those humans actually opened fire at full power. Many zombies were killed in a single encounter. Roar. The sharp and piercing roar was from the speed evolved zombie. When it sounded, all the zombies that crossed the red line retreated. Luo Ren looked in the direction of the sound, but only saw a forest. The speed evolved zombie should be hiding in the forest, commanding these ordinary zombies and level 1 zombies to attack and retreat point from the roar. Luo Ren analyzed that this should be a level 2 zombie, not a quasi level 3 point. The zombies withdrew from the red line and paused for a few seconds. The roar of the level 2 speed zombies sounded again, and the zombies that withdrew from the red line crossed the red line again. Similarly, the soldiers of the Kingdom Army once again opened fire, and the bullets were densely covered like a fishing net towards the zombies. The firearms used by the Kingdom Army are all standard firearms. The automatic rifle alone has a firing rate of up to 560 rounds per minute. It only takes a few seconds to empty a 30-round magazine, and even bursts of fire will never exceed 1 minute. Therefore, every time the zombies crossed the red line, the soldiers of the Kingdom Army would consume almost 5 magazines. Taking out half of the existing ammunition in stock, each soldier was only given more than 20 magazines, which was only enough to barely survive a zombie siege at full firepower. The hawk was circling in the sky, and the zombies jumped repeatedly inside and outside the red line. The Kingdom Army switched back and forth between shooting and stopping. Only Luo Ren looked calm, staring at the mountains and forests outside the city with indifferent eyes. As for the guards under the city wall, they pricked up their ears, waited in full battle, and waited for Luo Ren's orders at any time, and then executed them. About half an hour later, the Kingdom Army's ammunition had already become exhausted, and the casualties of the zombies dropped sharply. If the casualties of the zombies in the first half an hour were 10/s, then now it was 2/s. This was not because the Kingdom Army slowed down the firing rate in order to save bullets, but because the ammunition on the scene was really running out. Seeing this, Luo Ren walked to Luo Song, leaned over to his ear, and said, "Tell the soldiers to slow down the firing rate as much as possible and survive this siege." What he wanted was to draw out the real main zombie group, especially the quasi level 3 zombies and level 2 zombies among them, so that they could be wiped out in one fell swoop. Otherwise it would be in vain. At present, the ammunition of the Kingdom Army has been exhausted, and all this has been seen by the quasi level 3 zombies hiding in the dark. Luo Ren is confident that with its IQ, it will definitely not see that this is a trick point, and according to the speculation of the Battle of Chiang City, under such circumstances, the quasi level 3 zombies and level 2 zombies in the dark should be dispatched in the next siege point. Of course, he is also willing to see the main zombie group dispatched now, because the guns and artillery of the guard army are always ready. After hearing this, Luo Song nodded and immediately summoned the responsible officer to pass on the order, save ammunition and survive this battle. The firing rate slowed down, and the rate of killing zombies gradually slowed down from 2/s just now to 5/s. The obvious decrease in speed obviously did not make the evolution zombies in the dark suspicious, but made them more excited. This can be heard from the roar of the speed zombies who were secretly commanding. Roar it. was still sharp and piercing, but the sound was prolonged, and a tune was raised. When the zombies heard the roar, they crossed the red line more boldly and boldly, and the speed of withdrawing from the red line was slower. Luo Ren saw these changes and couldn't help but raise a curve at the corner of his mouth. Roar. Another half an hour passed. This time the zombie siege lasted for about an hour. With a hawk sound and a piercing roar, the zombies retreated. Point swish. Luo Ren's eyes were not on the retreating zombies, but on the mountains and forests. With the roar of the evolution zombies, a black shadow suddenly passed through the mountains and forests under his gaze. Ordinary people must not be able to see it clearly, but he can. As expected, it was a level 2 speed zombie with red eyes, sharp claws, and quadrupedal walking. Gradually, the zombies retreated into the forest, leaving thousands of zombie corpses outside the city and within the red line. The weather is not too hot now, and these corpses are not so easy to rot and stink. Therefore, under Luo Song's arrangement, there is no need to rush to clean up. In the past, the corpses were cleaned up only after the zombies had attacked the city or day point, but Luo Ren had his considerations. That is, these corpses could easily become obstacles for the guards to chase out of the city, so it is better to clean them up early. Point. He turned his head to see Luo Song and said, "You arrange for people to clean up the corpses outside the city. You don't need to burn or bury the corpses first. Just throw them aside to avoid hindering the guards to chase out of the city." Chapter 192. War Begins, Part 2. Old Song understood Luo Ren's words, and without any rebuttal, he nodded and said, "Okay, read." Then, he arranged a team of 24 people to go out of the city to clean up the zombie corpses. Eagle. Startled, Luo Ren looked up at the goshawk, only to see it circle twice and fly away. This flat-haired beast, the zombies retreated, and it left without seeing the quasi level 3 zombies. "It's really ready to pick up the leak," Luo Ren said secretly. After more than an hour of fighting, it is now 10:30. According to the rules, the next zombie attack should be after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. However, it is necessary to prepare for a rainy day and not to slack off. Therefore, every soldier of the kingdom army guarding the city did not leave his post and still stood on the city wall, always alert to the movement of the mountains and forests ahead. Point. In this season, although the temperature is not high, it is still hot under the clear sky and direct sunlight today, so many people are sweating. Point. In such an environment, time passed quietly, and it was 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is noon. At this time, the sun is right overhead, and everyone's skin is hot. Luo Ren ordered Luo Shan to take out the compressed dry food and distribute it. It is not suitable to be complicated during wartime. Just fill your stomach and replenish your physical strength. As for the taste, there is not so much pursuit. Of course, this does not mean that the compressed dry food tastes bad, but emphasizes its convenience. The compressed dry food is sufficient. So Luo Ren asked Luo Shan to take people to take out some and give them to the soldiers of the kingdom army. In the current environment, even the kingdom army has very little military food. When you are hungry during wartime, you usually use sweet potatoes, taro, potatoes and other foods to fill your stomach. In non-wartime, you can eat hot rice and meat dishes, but vegetarian dishes can only be eaten once every 2 or 3 days, because now there is more meat than vegetables. The soldiers of the kingdom army took a bite of the compressed dry food, chewed it a few times, and then enjoyed it with their faces. They haven't eaten such delicious military compressed dry food for a long time. The strong milky flavor makes people linger. A small piece can fill your stomach, and it is much more delicious than sweet potatoes, taro, and potatoes. Hey, this guard brother, do you bring compressed dry food when you go out under the city wall? A kingdom army soldier asked a guard soldier. The guard soldier chewed the food in his mouth and heard the words and replied vaguely, almost, "There are some self-heating foods." Fuck. The kingdom army soldier heard the words, and he swallowed the compressed dry food he had just bitten off without chewing it, and then he was surprised. "You still have self-heating food? The kind of self-heating pot?" The guard soldier said, "It's not a self-heating pot, it's just an ordinary bagged military self-heating food, cooked food such as rice and stir-fried vegetables." Then, he shook his head and pursed his lips and said, "I think this kind of self-heating food is not good. It's still delicious when it's freshly made." After that, He took a bite of the compressed dry food and looked at the Kingdom Army soldier. Soldier of the Kingdom Army had a speechless expression on his face. As the saying goes, eyes are windows to the soul. He saw that there was a flash of irritability in the eyes of the soldier of the Kingdom Army, and he seemed to want to hit someone. "What's wrong with you?" the guard soldier asked in confusion. "Nothing. Nothing. Just kidney pain." The soldier of the Kingdom Army turned his head away. Eating lunch under the high sun is a special experience. Luo Ren unscrewed the bottle cap, raised his head to drink water, and suddenly saw a figure flying in the sky. Luo Ren was a little surprised, thinking, why is this flat-haired beast here again? At the same time, the eagle in the sky made a high-pitched eagle cry, starting everyone to look, and then retracted their gaze point. And at the moment, when their gaze was retracted, dense footsteps came from the forest in front, followed by a sharp roar, and a large number of zombies rushed out of the forest densely, and the number was more than 2 or 3 times that of the zombies that attacked the city. Last time point swish, a figure passed by and jumped onto the branch. Luo Ren looked closely and saw that it was a level 2 speed zombie. In this situation, the main force of the zombie group should be dispatched, and the quasi level 3 zombie in the dark should also appear. The zombies rushed over with their mouths open and their teeth and claws bared. The soldiers of the Kingdom Army reacted immediately and shot with guns. However, since the bullets were almost consumed, the gunshots stopped in just a few minutes. Old Song frowned and ran to Luo Ren, saying in surprise, "It's just past 12 o'clock, and these zombies actually launched a second siege. It doesn't matter whether it's 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, these zombies have only one ending." Luo Ren smiled indifferently and said. Seeing Luo Ren so confident, Old Song's brows relaxed, nodded heavily, and echoed, "That's right, if you come early, let them be eliminated earlier." The zombie group has crossed the red line and is running straight. The Kingdom Army's ammunition had been used up, and they could no longer stop the zombies outside the red line. They could only watch the zombies approach the city and begin to attack the city walls and gates. "Grenade!" Luo Ren shouted. The Kingdom Army soldiers immediately pulled off the grenades hanging on their combat uniforms, pulled the safety, and threw them towards the city, with explosions one after another run like high explosive grenades. The Kingdom Army's grenades are ordinary grenades, which rely entirely on flying shrapnel to kill, and are only effective against ordinary zombies. Even a level 1 strength zombie can easily resist it with its thick, fat roar. The roar was deafening, and then it was like a huge rock falling to the ground, making a huge noise that shook the ground. Then 3 tall, muscular level 2 zombies rushed out of the forest carrying thick logs. These 3 level 2 zombies ran, holding the logs high and throwing them hard. The logs thicker than the mouth of a bull were like in large javelins. Luo Ren clenched his fists behind his back, but did not shoot, but watched the logs thrown at him. This was done to make the quasi level 3 zombies in the dark believe that Sanctuary City number 1 had run out of ammunition and food, and had no hidden strength, so they could take action. Bang bang bang. 2 of the thrown logs hit the city wall, and the gravel splashed, causing the city wall to tremble. However, despite the noise, it did not cause any substantial damage to the city wall. After all, this is a city wall with a population of more than 100,000. Although its defense is not as strong as that of Chiang City, it is not as weak as those of small cities and villages. There was also a log that passed over the city wall. Fortunately, when the Kingdom Army soldiers saw the log, they dodged it immediately. The log was shot at the guards in the city. Luo Ren looked back, without any worry in his eyes. He saw a figure flashing and heading towards the log. The person who made the move was Luo Shan. He hugged the log with both hands, bursting with strength and stopping it alive. Chapter 193, War Begins, Part 3. Seeing the logs that were as powerful as artillery shells being stopped abruptly, Old Song was secretly surprised. He had seen Xia Chuan's terrifying strength and speed, but now seeing Luo Shan, he found that his speed and strength were not much worse than Xia Chuan. Read so it seems that Luo Shan is also a level 2 evolver. This is just Luo Shan, and he is so terrifying. Then how terrifying Luo Ren, the supreme commander of the guard army, must be. He looked at Luo Ren with a look of shock. It happened that Luo Ren retracted his gaze, and their eyes collided. Old Song quickly turned his head away. Luo Ren's expression did not change much, and he returned his gaze to the battlefield. He saw that the 3 level 2 power zombies took steps and rushed over. Every step they took was like a huge rock falling, with a loud bang, and the earth trembled. This is a 3-headed humanoid tank. Soon, the 3 level 2 power zombies crossed the red line and got closer and closer to the city. Faced with this situation, Luo Ren did not make any move and let them attack. Point bang bang bang. 3 loud noises, the city wall trembled more violently than when it was hit by logs just now. Level 2 power zombies are 278 meters tall, while the city wall of number 1 sanctuary city is 4 meters high and 3 meters wide. It is made of concrete and assisted by mortar, so its defense is still quite strong. Even if it faces the simultaneous impact of 3 level 2 power zombies, it can still withstand it. However, the city wall can be blocked, but the city gate is not necessarily. After all, this is not in Chiang City. The city gate is made of pure steel, and its strength is not inferior to the city wall. The defense is extremely abnormal. The city gate of number 1 sanctuary city is ironclad wood, with a thickness of half a meter, which is enough to defend against ordinary zombies, level 1 evolution zombies, and quasi level 2 power zombies. However, it can only resist for a while when facing level 2 power zombies. If quasi level 3 power zombies attack, it will only be a matter of a few encounters. Fortunately, the 3 level 2 strength zombies were not like the level 2 speed zombies, which had a relatively complete self-awareness and some wisdom. They could not make the right judgment, so they aimed at the city wall and rammed it crazily. Bang, bang, bang. The loud noises continued, and the city wall trembled continuously. However, after dozens of collisions, although cracks spread in the places where they were hit, compared with the overall city wall, they were harmless, and the city wall did not show any signs of collapse. In the city, many residents stopped their work and looked towards the east city. There was no such noise in the past when attacking the city. People's eyes were full of worry and fear. Some people were mumbling in their mouths. Listening carefully, they were praying for the kingdom army to win and defend the city. Some people, after several loud noises, became more and more frightened and immediately ran back to their houses, shivering under the table, under the bed, and in the quilt. In the center of the city, in the military tent. The huge crash and the tremor of the earth have reached here. Xia Jing's eyes are full of worry. Her son Li Zi's tender little face shows a trace of fear, but more of it is perseverance and determination. With his hands clenched, Li Zi looked at his mother and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I will join the army and fight zombies." Although his voice is tender, his tone is firm. No one would think he is joking. Xia Jing looked at her son, who was only 10 years old, nodded heavily, and said, "Xia, Mom supports you." East City, on the city wall. More than 10 minutes have passed, and the zombies outside the city has presented a scene of corpses, squeezed corpses, especially at the root of the city, where the zombies squeezed into a slope, and the zombies behind climbed up the slope, trying to climb onto the city wall. At this time, the grenades have been used up, and the rest can only fight with bayonets. Pull out the military dagger, and install it on the gun. Whenever a zombie shows its head, it is a bayonet. White knife in, black knife out. Because the blood of zombies is black and viscous, only the blood of level 2 zombies and above is dark red, and the viscosity is not much different from that of humans. Fortunately, the power type of old zombies are too heavy and not flexible enough to climb the city wall through the slope, so there is no problem of the bayonet not being able to penetrate. Of course, the power zombies cannot climb up because of their weight, but the speed zombies do not have this problem. They are small and fast, and even easier to climb the city wall. At this time, the soldiers of the Kingdom Army also use the most effective way for ordinary humans to deal with speed zombies with determination and the heart of death, that is, change. Find the right opportunity, hug the speed zombie next to you, and then the comrades next to you will kill the speed zombie as soon as possible. In this case, unless you are extremely lucky, the person hugging the zombie can be safe and sound. Otherwise, there is only one way to end up, that is, to become a zombie. Level 1 zombies can be dealt with in this way, but quasi level 2 zombies are not so easy. They are faster. If you want to kill quasi level 2 zombies by exchanging, the ratio is at least 35 to 1. Such casualties are too serious. In this case, Luo Ren can't just sit back and watch. He immediately ordered the guards who have reached the peak of level 1 to change into the clothes of the Kingdom Army and fight against the quasi level 2 zombies. Why didn't Luo Shan and others, who are level 2 evolvers, take action? That's because, just in case, the quasi level 3 zombies in the dark saw so many level 2 evolvers in the city and thought there were still hidden forces in the city, and then ordered a retreat. In this way, the plan would be completely ruined. The eagle soaring above the sky once again sent out its eagle's cry that shocked the sky and stopped the clouds, causing Luo Ren to look up. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly broke through the air, and its speed was much faster than the quasi level 2 speed zombie point, as 2/3 of his body had entered the ranks of level 3 evolvers. Luo Ren was very sensitive and sensed the danger at the first time. He instantly retracted his gaze, moved his feet slightly, and his body moved to the right. The figure that broke through the air passed by him, and Luo Ren saw clearly that it was a level 2 speed zombie. So many people, they actually attacked me directly? Luo Ren was shocked. He was standing relatively far back. Generally, zombies would attack the soldiers of the Kingdom Army in front, not him, but this level 2 speed zombie actually jumped over the Kingdom Army soldiers and attacked him directly, which was really strange. Snap! The level 2 speed zombie landed softly, his eyes full of vigilance. The human in front of him was able to avoid his sneak attack, which showed that he was very fast. Luo Ren frowned slightly, his eyes fixed on the level 2 speed zombie. He was considering whether to take action. If he killed the level 2 speed zombie and scared the quasi level 3 zombie in the dark, causing it to run away, then he would really cry his eyes out. Chapter 194, War Begins, End. Swish! While he was thinking, the level 2 speed zombie attacked again, waving a pair of sharp claws and stabbing continuously, but he dodged them one by one. Read while dodging, Luo Ren made up his mind that he didn't have to kill the level 2 speed zombie, but just had to avoid its attack, and his speed couldn't be much faster, so that he could try not to arouse the vigilance of the quasi level 3 zombies in the dark point. If he did this, the quasi level 3 zombies in the dark still chose to retreat, then he would have no choice but to make a plan to maximize the benefits. Kill the level 2 speed zombie and the 3 level 2 strength zombies, and then the guards would chase out of the city and try their best to cause the greatest damage to the zombie group. Point: the speed of the level 2 speed zombie is very fast, and ordinary people can only see a shadow, but in Luo Ren's eyes it is very slow, so slow that he can easily dodge it without any effort. However, he had to pretend to be dodging reluctantly, which was more difficult than killing a level 2 zombie. In a blink of an eye, the two had fought for dozens of rounds. Luo Ren's clothes had a few more scratches, but no blood. It was obvious that his clothes were just torn. On the other hand, the level 2 speed zombie had a few more blood holes on his chest and a footprint on his back, all of which were Luo Ren's work. Acting should be comprehensive. It is impossible to dodge all the time. This looks too fake. It is more realistic if both sides have injuries. Whoosh! The sharp claws swept across, cutting through the air, making a sharp sound. Luo Ren's expression was indifferent. He tapped his toes lightly, moved his body backward, and barely avoided the sharp claws. The level 2 speed zombie clenched its right claw and stabbed Luo Ren's heart. The speed was faster than the previous attack, but Luo Ren slightly turned sideways, and the sharp claw passed by it. Logically speaking, this posture has a huge flaw, which is enough for Luo Ren to kill the level 2 speed zombie in front of him. However, he slapped a palm and hit the speed zombie on the shoulder, and the power was swallowed and ejected, pushing it back 5 or 6 steps. With this attack, he could have completely transformed his palm into a fist and smashed the head of the level 2 speed zombie with one punch, but he didn't. Instead, he used very little strength and only repelled the level 2 speed zombie. The level 2 speed zombie was hit on the shoulder and felt that the human in front of him was not very powerful and could not cause fatal damage to him, so he was no longer afraid and the vigilance in his eyes disappeared completely. After several unsuccessful attacks, it did not stop and continued to attack, grabbing Luo Ren with 2 claws sharper than a dagger. Suddenly, the hawk in the sky cried. Luo Ren attacked the level 2 speed zombie and had no time to care about the hawk. When the hawk fell, the hair on his back stood hesitate up, and a sense of crisis surged in his heart. There was no time to. Facing the attack of the level 2 speed zombie, he clenched his fist with one hand and punched it on the head. The head of the level 2 speed zombie instantly exploded like a watermelon hit by a heavy blow, and dark red blood mixed with brain matter splashed. At the same time, a sharp sound of breaking wind sounded behind Luo Ren, which made his back cold. He did not look back, but leaped forward, turned around, and saw a monkey-like quasi level 3 speed zombie finally appeared. Luo Ren's mouth corners slightly raised. His goal was achieved. The quasi level 3 zombie in the dark finally appeared. The quasi level 3 speed zombie was surprised and did not expect that this human had hidden strength and was so fast. It did not chase immediately, but flashed to the body of the level 2 speed zombie with a broken head, showing a sad and regretful expression, and then wailed to the sky. Roar. The sharp and piercing sound attracted the attention of the guards. Luo Shan. Luo Hey. Luo G. Luo Ren shouted, "You three deal with the other 3 level 2 power zombies." He then turned his gaze to Luo Song and shouted, "All Kingdom Army soldiers withdraw from the city wall. Luo Song, open the city gate." After the order was issued, the Kingdom Army soldiers on the city wall immediately retreated, including the level 1 peak guards who had taken action earlier. The quasi level 3 speed zombie heard Luo Ren's shout. Although he didn't know what it meant, it must not be a good thing. It was no longer sad that its potential fellows were killed. It moved and rushed towards Luo Ren quickly. In midair, claws grew from its fingertips. Luo Ren had taken 3 quasi level 3 evolution crystals, and his strength and speed were stronger than the quasi level 3 zombies. Although the speed of the quasi level 3 speed zombie in front of him was faster than the one he encountered in Ruai City, it was still not as fast as him. It can be said that at the moment, unless a real level 3 zombie came out, it would definitely not be his opponent. Clang. Pulling out the saber, Luo Ren's eyes suddenly became sharp, like a sharp blade, but it hurts not the body, but the soul. He kicked the ground with his feet, and the whole person rushed out violently. The speed was so fast that it was faster than the quasi level 3 speed zombie, which made the quasi level 3 speed zombie shocked, but the attack had already been launched, and it was basically impossible to retract it. Clang. The claws collided with the saber, and it was obvious that the claws were more powerful, cutting into the saber halfway without any damage. However, this was all within Luo Ren's expectations. He condensed his eyes, clenched his left fist and blasted out, hitting the quasi level 3 speed zombie in the face. The scene of the second speed zombie's head being smashed just now was still vivid, and the quasi level 3 speed zombie did not dare to be arrogant, thinking that he was stubborn and could withstand this punch. It reacted quickly and jumped up, trying to avoid this blow. Although it was fast, Luo Ren was not a pushover. Although this punch did not hit its head, it hit its thigh. With a bang, the bones broke, and blood and flesh splattered. The quasi level 3 speed zombie retreated backwards and distanced itself from Luo Ren. As a quasi level 3 zombie, its self-awareness was more complete and its control over its body was more coordinated. It was also because of this that it could feel pain. The whole leg was blown up, and the pain was comparable to scraping bones and washing marrow, which made its face distorted, teeth clenched, and its combat effectiveness was greatly reduced. It was not Luo Ren's opponent in the first place, and now it was like fish on the chopping board. If Luo Ren slaughtered it, it would definitely die. The eyes of the quasi level 3 speed zombie were full of fear. It was the fear of the human in front of it. It never thought that this human was so powerful without those strange weapons. At this moment, the eagle hawk, Luo Ren frowned upon hearing the sound, and looked up at the goshawk. Could it be that this flat-haired beast was going to steal his spoils again? Obviously, he guessed wrong. The goshawk was just hovering in the sky and had no intention of stealing food. Thinking back to the past, every time the goshawk called, something bad would happen. Once it was a zombie attacking the city, once it was a level 2 speed zombie, and once it was this quasi level 3 zombie. What would it call this time? Whoosh! Suddenly, Luo Ren's muscles tensed up, and a great sense of crisis surged into his heart, even mixed with a hint of death. Chapter 195 Level 3 Zombies. The wind blew from west to east, getting stronger and stronger. The clouds in the sky obscured the sun at this moment, and the world suddenly became much darker. Luo Ren felt a chill in his heart and his back felt cold. He could clearly feel the terrifying aura behind him. He didn't have time to look back, and the sharp wind pierced his back through the void, causing pain like a needle. Google search Fort Wakanthan. He heard the sound of breaking through the air, and the terrifying aura was approaching behind him. Open the city gate. Kakaka. The city gate was wide open, and countless zombies rushed in. In an instant, the sound of gunfire shook the earth. The zombies that rushed in, their limbs were broken, and their flesh and blood splattered, and they fell one after another on the city wall. Luo Ren panted quickly, reached out and touched his back, which was wet. When he put it in front of his eyes, he immediately widened his eyes, with fear and panic in his eyes at the same time. The system's prompt sounded, "Warning, warning, warning. Zombie gene invasion detected." The system's voice sounded like it came from hell. Luo Ren felt desperate after hearing it. However, in a moment, he recovered his mentality, turned around, and looked forward. The quasi level 3 speed zombie sat with his back against the battlement, and dark red blood continued to flow from the wound of his broken leg, dyeing the ground dark red. In front of it, a monkey-like zombie with a body size similar to it was squatting. This zombie had no hair on its body, except for the bright red blood on the fingertips of the right hand. There were no long sharp nails on both hands, which should have been retracted into the flesh. Luo Ren was shocked when he saw this zombie. He felt an extremely terrifying aura from it, which was far from comparable to that of a quasi level 3 zombie. And he didn't even dodge the sneak attack just now, which shows how fast this zombie is. The speed was so fast and the breath was so terrifying that Luo Ren opened his mouth and uttered 4 words, "Level 3 zombie." As soon as the voice fell, the zombie turned his head and looked at it. However, the scalloped eyes had disappeared, replaced by normal pupils like humans. There was a hint of evil and weirdness. The level 3 zombie heard the sound of gunfire and saw the zombies being slaughtered by the guards under the city wall. It bared its teeth and showed an angry expression, roaring. Angrily, it moved and rushed towards the guards below. However, a figure flashed and blocked it in front of it. It was Luo Ren, who shouted, "Your opponent is me." After that, he rotated his fists to hit the level 3 zombies. Each punch was full of 100% of his strength. The power was extremely amazing. Even the level 3 zombies had to temporarily avoid the edge. After a few minutes, Luo Ren's punches slowed down and became weaker. This was because maintaining such a high intensity attack consumed a lot of his physical strength. At that time, beads of sweat had already appeared on his forehead. The blood from the wound behind him stained his clothes red. At the same time, the level 3 zombie also saw the opportunity to counterattack, and no longer just dodged, but began to fight back. Its speed exceeded Luo Ren, and each blow faintly emitted a sonic boom. Even if it did not exceed the speed of sound, it reached subsonic speed. Facing such a fast attack, Luo Ren dodged very reluctantly. After several rounds, he had 2 more wounds on his body. At the same time, the system also issued a prompt. "Warning. Warning. Warning. Zombie gene invasion detected." Luo Ren was already desperate. There was only one outcome for such a battle, and that was failure. No, it should be said that he had already failed because he had been infected with the zombie virus. After several rounds, he had several more scars on his body. The warning of the system lingered in his ears. Suddenly, his eyes condensed, his teeth gritted, and he shouted angrily, "I will fight you, since both sides will die. It is better to exchange one for the other." The level 3 zombie stretched out one hand straight, and the nails protruding from the flesh were the same length as its palm, piercing the air and stabbing straight towards Luo Ren's chest. Luo Ren stood still. He had made plans to die together. As long as the level 3 zombie pierced his chest, he could control the level 3 zombie and then blow its head with one punch. Instantly, a strong wind blew, blowing Luo Ren's clothes. The wind whistled, and the Ishu River was cold. The warriors left and never came back. The breath of death was blowing in his face, and Luo Ren's fists were clenched. Bang! Suddenly, the sound of an eagle was accompanied by a sonic boom. A huge shadow enveloped Luo Ren and the level 3 zombie. The strong airflow hit Luo Ren, but he remained motionless. The level 3 zombie did not have such a strong body, so his movements immediately froze. The eagle descended from the sky, stretched out its giant eagle claws, pressed the level 3 zombie to the ground, and then pecked it several times with its beak. Each time, the level 3 zombie's bones were broken and flesh splashed. The level 3 zombie was pecked to death. Then, under Luo Ren's gaze, the eagle flapped its wings and flew high. Luo Ren put away his fighting posture, his face full of surprise, and at the same time he was very fortunate that the eagle actually saved him. Fortunately, it did not last long. The pain of the wound stimulated his nerves. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. Even if they did not die together on the spot, wouldn't the final outcome still be death together? However, it was not the time to despair. He looked at the quasi level 3 speed zombie. Although one of its legs was broken, it was still a quasi level 3 zombie and was still very dangerous. He had to kill this beast before he turned into a zombie. The quasi level 3 speed zombie never thought that his predecessor would be pecked to death by a gosh orc. It was so shocked that it stood there in a daze. At this time, feeling Luo Ren's sharp gaze, he immediately came to his senses, struggled to get up, and wanted to escape. Although Luo Ren was injured and his physical strength was severely depleted, he was much better than the quasi level 3 speed zombie with a broken leg. Seeing it was about to escape, Luo Ren rushed out without saying a word and arrived in front of it in a breath. He had no time and no interest in teasing it. Luo Ren's 5 fingers were slightly bent into claws and directly grabbed its head. Puff, like cutting tofu with a knife, the 5 fingers easily pierced into the head of the quasi level 3 speed zombie and then pulled out, bringing up a piece of dark red mixed with tofu white. The quasi level 3 speed zombie immediately collapsed to the ground, deader than dead. Luo Ren spread out his palm, and a tender green evolution crystal lay in the palm of his palm. This is a quasi level 3 evolution crystal. For him who has already eaten 3 quasi level 3 evolution crystals, he only needs to take this evolution crystal to become a true level 3 evolver. However, he no longer had the desire he had in the past, because the pain from the wounds on his body was still stimulating his nerves, making him unable to temporarily forget that he had been infected with the zombie virus. After a moment of silence, Luo Ren tightly grasped the evolution crystal and asked secretly, "System, is there a way to remove the zombie virus from my body?" Chapter 196 Urgency. The natural life energy contained in the dragon crystal has the effect of purifying any gene except the original gene, and can remove the zombie genes in the host. The system immediately gave an answer. Dragon crystal? Luo Ren was extremely bitter. He had dragon crystal before, but later he lost it. Moreover, he remembered that high-tech instruments were needed to extract the life energy in the dragon crystal, and he didn't know where to get these things. The system could sense Luo Ren's thoughts and immediately spoke, in the spirit of humanitarianism. Remind the host that the base can be upgraded to level 4 to unlock the research institute, which can extract the life energy in the dragon crystal. Really? Luo Ren was immediately surprised, and hope was rekindled in his heart. It would be easy to upgrade the base to level 4. The quasi level 3 zombies and level 3 zombies were killed, and the problem of number 1 Shelter City was basically solved. The problem of Yuhu City had been solved long ago. What was left was the migration of population. As long as the people of these 2 cities were migrated to Chiang City, the population of Chiang City or the population of the base would exceed 500,000 at once, meeting the conditions for upgrading to level 4. Once the base is upgraded to level 4, the research institute can be unlocked, and the only problem left is to find the dragon crystal. Luo Ren took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and asked, "System, how long will it take for the zombie virus I'm infected to break out?" The host's current physique is a quasi level 3 evolver, and his resistance to zombie gene invasion is much stronger than that of ordinary people. It is expected to delay the outbreak of zombie genes for 15 days. Only 15 days, Luo Ren frowned. It can only be delayed for 15 days, which is far from enough. He remembered what the system said before, that dragon crystals can only be bred in famous mountains and rivers. In such places, there are fewer humans and naturally fewer zombies. However, there are many animals there, and they are all wild animals. Even if they have not evolved, they are extremely dangerous, let alone after evolution. Therefore, if you want to find dragon crystals in such a place, 15 days is definitely not enough. Suddenly, he opened his palm again, saw the quasi level 3 evolution crystal, and asked, "System, if I take this evolution crystal and become a level 3 evolver, will the time to suppress the virus be extended?" Yes, the level 3 evolver has a strong physique and is expected to delay the zombie gene virus for 3 months. Fuck. As soon as this was said, Luo Ren was shocked. The difference between the quasi level 3 evolver and the level 3 evolver was too big. One was 15 days, and the other was 3 months, a full 6 times difference in the middle. However, this also made Luo Ren relieved. 3 months, that is, 90 days. Although it is not certain that the dragon pattern crystal can be found within 3 months, it is better than 15 days. Without further ado, Luo Ren jumped and ran into the city. He came to the inner city and walked into the exclusive military tent. He picked up the kettle casually, poured out the clean water, washed the impurities on the quasi level 3 evolution crystal, and then swallowed it without hesitation. The feeling of being bitten by millions of ants immediately swept over his body, but Luo Ren's expression only changed slightly, and he did not howl in pain. Because he had taken 3 quasi level 3 evolution crystals. His physical condition had greatly improved. At the same time, he also felt the pain of evolution twice, and he was able to accept it. In layman's terms, he got used to it. Time passed by seconds. About a minute and a half later, crack, Luo Ren seemed to hear a crisp sound, as if something broke, and suddenly felt relaxed all over. The physical strength he had just consumed was instantly replenished at this moment. He slowly opened his eyes and raised his hand to see that his arm was covered with a layer of translucent white skin, which made him clean. Does it shed every time it evolves? He quickly tore off the dead skin on his body and changed into a set of clean clothes. While changing clothes, he touched his skin. Unlike before, it felt like polished granite, but it felt soft and elastic like normal skin. Such a change did not make him happy at first, but worried. He drew out his saber and stabbed his arm. His skin was not cut, and there was no mark left. Such strength was already higher than that of a level 2 evolver. In this way, he breathed a sigh of relief and became excited. However, the excitement did not last long. It was soon dispelled by the urgency of being infected with the zombie virus and finding the dragon crystal within 3 months. After changing his clothes, he rushed to East City. The zombies without a leader were in chaos. They fought with guns and artillery, and their bodies were broken and splashed in the explosion of shells. They were scattered everywhere, and even the roof of a tank had pieces of body parts, and the 3 level 2 power zombies were directly blown into pieces by the tank's armor-piercing shells without the need for Luo Shan, Luo Hei, and Luo Ji, the 3 level 2 evolvers, to take action. Seeing that the zombies at the city gate were piling up more and more, almost blocking the city gate, Luo Ren immediately ordered, "Luo Ji Luo Li, you lead 1,000 people. Climb the city wall and annihilate the zombies." Only tank shells, heavy machine guns, and light machine guns were used to block the gate, and thousands of people were not used and could only stand behind and watch. At this time, Luo Ren spoke, and Luo Ji Luo Li immediately picked out 1,000 idle guard soldiers, quickly climbed the city wall, and annihilated the zombies. Unlike in Xiang City, there were still level 2 speed zombies summoning retreat. At this time, the level 3 zombies and quasi level 3 zombies, as well as 4 level 2 zombies, were already dead. Among the remaining zombies, except for the quasi level 2 speed zombies that retreated on their own, the rest of the zombies only had an extreme desire for flesh and blood. Therefore, these zombies will not retreat, but attack until the last zombie is killed. Thousands of guardsmen climbed onto the city wall, and various firearms were set up. In an instant, the gunfire was several times denser, and the zombies were killed several times faster. Lao Song, who wore gold-rimmed glasses and was the chief of staff of the Royal Army, saw this situation and said with emotion, "The combat effectiveness of the guards is really powerful." Immediately afterwards, he was about to reach Luo Ren and asked curiously, "Sir Luo Ren, where did you go just now?" When Luo Ren fought with the zombies, ordinary people like Lao Song could only see 2 shadows flashing back and forth, and couldn't see the details at all. As for Luo Ren being injured by the zombies, He didn't even notice. All I know is that the last particularly powerful zombie was pecked to death by the goshawk circling in the sky. The zombie's blood was splattered all over me, so I went to change my clothes. Luo Ren made an excuse at random. It would be best if only he knew about being infected with the zombie virus. Hearing this, Leo Song looked at Luo Ren. Although the clothes were of the same style, they were much cleaner now, so he didn't have too many doubts. Time flew by. About half an hour later, the gunfire gradually died down, and the battle ended. Luo Ren climbed onto the city wall and glanced over, only to see zombie corpses scattered all over the place. The scene was very spectacular. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197, The End. The stars surround the bright moon, and the moonlight falls straight into the sky. Read outside the #1 sanctuary city. It is red, and the world is as bright as day. It is the people of the kingdom army who are burning the corpses of zombies in the daytime siege. Countless zombies were killed. The fire has been burning since the afternoon, and has not been finished. At this moment, the whole city is filled with the smell of barbecue. Many ordinary residents who have not eaten meat for a long time can't help swallowing their saliva. If it is not zombie meat burning outside, but the second brother who died of illness, it is estimated that many people will rush up and feast on it. In the center of the city, in the military tent. Luo Ren sat in the middle of the oval long table. With him as the center, on both sides sat Luo Shan, Luo He and other captains of the guard army. Opposite, Leo Song was in the middle, and other officers sat on both sides of him. The long table was full of food, and people kept bringing food, and the fragrance lingered in the military tent. Luo Ren looked down and scanned the food on the table. It was not exquisite, and the ingredients were all ordinary. However, in this era, abundance is the highest standard. Old Song smiled slightly and said, "These are the only ones in the city now. Commander Luo Ren, please don't despise them." Luo Ren smiled slightly and said, "How can I despise such a rich food?" After a round of politeness, the meal finally started. The kingdom army ate heartily, and the rest of the guard army, except Luo Shan, Luo He, and Luo Ji, also ate heartily. Luo Ren looked at Luo Shan, Luo He, and Luo Ji in confusion, and thought to himself, these three guys are usually the most active in eating. What's wrong with them today? They are listless, and have no appetite. Although he felt strange, he didn't ask too many questions in this situation. Although the ingredients were ordinary, the taste of the dishes was excellent, which was up to the level of professional chefs. Luo Ren picked up a piece of braised meat, and put it into his mouth. It was neither salty nor bland, and the meat was full of flavor. This made his eyes light up, and he praised, "Wang Guojin's chef is better than Li Jiu's. Let Li Jiu learn for a while, when he has time." While eating, Leo Song was also observing Luo Ren's expression, fearing that he was not satisfied with the dishes. However, after observing for a while, he found that he was worrying too much. Luo Ren obviously liked these dishes, so he was relieved. Time passed quickly, and the food on the table was consumed visibly. Although people kept filling it up, it was completely incomparable to the speed of consumption. The banquet lasted for nearly 2 hours, and everyone was satisfied. The tableau was removed, and the whole audience was silent for a while. Old Song suddenly sat up straight, pushed his gold-rimmed glasses, and said with a smile, "Since the zombie crisis has been resolved, according to the agreement, the population and resources of Sanctuary City #1 will belong to the base. I'm using your resources to entertain you, Commander Luo Ren." Ha ha ha, everyone laughed when they heard this. Luo Ren also smiled and said, "It's okay. You provide the people and I provide the ingredients. We will entertain together." After a long time, Old Song stopped laughing and asked, "The population of Sanctuary City #1 is more than 100,000. I wonder if Commander Luo Ren will fight against the zombies. How do you deal with so many people? How do you deal with them?" Luo Ren smiled calmly and said, "Why do you have to deal with them? If I want to deal with these people, why would I go to great lengths to send troops to help you repel the zombies. More than 100,000 people. My Chiang City. Oh, I forgot to tell you that the base has been renamed Chiang City. I will move all these more than 100,000 people to Chiang City. By then, they will be residents of Chiang City. In Chiang City, what they should and should not do has been determined. If Chief of Staff Song is curious about what to do in Chiang City, you can come and visit. I welcome you very much. As he said, Luo Ren looked at the other officers of the Kingdom Army and said, you are the same. If you are curious about my Chiang City, you are welcome to visit. Old Song smiled and did not intend to continue the conversation. Instead, he asked, may I ask Commander Luo Ren, do we have to wait until all the people in the city are moved to Chiang City before Deputy Commander Zaya can come back? In theory, that's the case. Luo Ren smiled slightly, took a sip of the water in front of him, and then said, it seems that Chief of Staff Song really hopes that Brother Zaya Chuan will come back soon. Alas. Hearing this, Old Song suddenly sighed and said, to be honest, not only are we besieged by zombies, but the military district is also besieged by zombies. The situation is not optimistic. I just hope that Deputy Commander Zaya will come back soon and lead us to support the Wasteland Military District. What? The Wasteland Military District is also besieged by zombies? Luo Ren was shocked. This news was really explosive. Number 1 Sanctuary City, Yuhu City, Chiang City, and the Wasteland Military District were the most powerful forces within a radius of 100 kilometers. They were besieged by zombies in a short period of time. These zombies are really moving. It takes less than a month for ordinary zombies to evolve to level 1 zombies. It takes about a month for level 1 zombies to evolve to level 2 zombies, and it takes more than half a year for level 2 zombies to evolve to level 3 zombies. Moreover, the number of quasi level 3 zombies is more than the number of quasi level 2 zombies when they came out. In this way, it is very likely that level 3 zombies did not appear recently, but existed several months ago. So why didn't they come out to hunt humans a few months ago? Why did they wait until now to attack various human shelters in a large scale, organized, and scattered manner? Luo Ren didn't know the details and could only speculate. However, he didn't have a god's perspective and didn't he have any clues, so speculation wouldn't yield anything practical. Moreover, the most important thing for him at the moment is not to speculate, but to relocate the population as quickly as possible, upgrade the base, and then build a research institute to find the dragon pattern crystal, extract the life energy from it, and remove the zombie virus from the body like a time bomb. After thinking for a long time, Luo Ren then asked, you don't have much ammunition reserved? Even if Zaya Chuan comes back and takes you to assist the Wasteland Military Region, what's the difference between saying something unpleasant and committing suicide? Snap. Even if it means death, we have to save him. As soon as he finished speaking, an officer from the First Kingdom Army slapped the table and stood up, saying angrily point immediately afterwards. Others echoed point. Luo Song immediately stood up, pressed his hands down, and said in a deep voice, everyone, sit down. The officers of the Royal Army sat down angrily, and Luo Song apologized. I'm sorry, they are all rough people and rude. Luo Ren waved his hand without thinking too much. Old Song sighed and said, Commander Liu is still in the military area. No matter whether we have enough ammunition or not, we have to rescue him, even if we know he will die. Luo Ren shook his head slightly, neither objecting nor agreeing, because he liked the spirit of swearing to die for the savior. However, he felt a bit stupid for insisting on going, even though he knew he was going to die. Overall, though, these men are true soldiers and deserve admiration. After drinking all the water in the cup, Luo Ren looked at Luo Song and said, I admire your spirit. Regarding ammunition, if you need it, you can come to me. However, I agreed that I would borrow it and have to pay it back. Chapter 198 Population Migration, Part 1. After hearing what Luo Ren said, Luo Song was obviously stunned for a moment, and then he was ecstatic, which could be seen from his facial expression. This can really be said to be an unexpected surprise. He knew in his heart that, although Luo Ren was borrowing, at this juncture, there was no difference between borrowing and giving. Thanks. The excitement was indescribable. He stood up, his eyes were red and his voice was trembling. Luo Ren smiled slightly and did not answer. The next day, early morning point in the military tent point, Luo Ren, Luo Shan, Luo He and other escort squadron captains sat around to discuss the zombie crisis is over, followed by population migration point. Not only Luo Song couldn't wait long, Luo Ren couldn't wait long either. Shelter City number 1 is more than 60 kilometers away from Chiang City, and it takes 3 or 4 hours to get there by vehicle. If you walk, you only need to go there without returning, and it will take more than 10 hours. Luo Ren looked around at the others and asked calmly, how many trucks do we have now? Everyone thought for a moment, and Luo Shan gave the answer. There is no specific statistics, but it is less than 300. Among them, there are about 230 medium-sized trucks, only 10 heavy-duty trucks, and about 30 other freight vehicles. A medium-sized truck can carry 50 people, and 230 trucks can transport 11,500 people at a time. According to the information provided by the Royal Army, Sanctuary City number 1 has a population of 137,000, more than 900 people. Even if all the medium-sized trucks are used, it will take 12 times to move the entire city's population back to Chiang City. Even if the vehicle takes 3.5 hours to go back and forth, you still have to refuel, get on and off, and may encounter various situations in the middle. Based on this calculation, the round trip time is expected to double, and it will take more than 7 hours at a time. Humans are not machines and cannot run for 24 hours a day. They must rest. From this point of view, the transportation can be done at most twice a day, which means that it will take 6 days at the fastest to move all the people in the city back to the base point. But there is also Yuhu City, which has a population of more than 100,000. Overall, it will take more than 10 days to move the population of these two cities back to the base. And I only had 3 months. Luo Ren rubbed his chin, pondering secretly, weighing the pros and cons, and what method should be used to move more than 200,000 people from the two cities back to the base as quickly as possible. After thinking for a long time, he finally decided to use motorized transportation instead of walking to the base with more than 100,000 people in the city. This method had been denied by him before. This time, it was because the 3-month time limit increased his sense of urgency that he considered using the method of relocating the entire city on foot. But upon reflection, this method is too unsafe. If you encounter zombies on the way, with 3,000 escorts and more than 100,000 guards, it can be said to be very difficult. As long as one person is bitten by a zombie, it will cause panic and chain reactions. By then, there will be more than 100,000, and probably less than 1/3 will be able to be brought back to Chiang City. In this way, it will be difficult to reach a population of 500,000, and it will be impossible to upgrade the level 4 base and unlock the research institute. If this is the case, even if he finds the dragon pattern crystal, he will still have to collect the population, which will undoubtedly add more people burden. Therefore, motorized transportation is still the best choice. Although it takes a little longer, it can reduce many risks and make it more stable. After making up his mind, Luo Ren looked up and saw Luo Shan, Luo He and several other naive squadron leaders. He felt helpless for a while. These guys were good at commanding and fighting, but they just didn't know how to come up with ideas. Soothing his mind, he said, in this case, it is still the old method. Luo and Luo He, you two take 1,000 people back to the city, fill up all the medium-sized trucks with oil, drive over, and then, immediately, move population. Yes. Luo and Luo He stood at attention and responded. Without any pause, the two men accepted the order and immediately left the military tent to mobilize troops and return to Chiang City. The plan has been decided. Luo Ren waved his hand and said, "That's it for today. You can go about your business." Several squadron leaders stood up and saluted, and everyone except Luo turned and left. When Luo Ren saw Luo not leaving, he asked, "Do you have anything else to do?" Luo hesitated, not acting like a guard squadron leader. Luo Ren said, "Speak when you have something to say, fart when you have something to say, hurry up and twist ninny like a bitch." After hearing this, Luo no longer hesitated and said, "Sir, were you injured by a zombie during yesterday's battle?" Luo Ren frowned suddenly and stared at Luo. the atmosphere suddenly became tense. However, Luo was not afraid or nervous at all, because he was not guilty, and had no other thoughts in his heart. He was only 100% loyal to Luo Ren. Therefore, facing Luo Ren's bright eyes, he would not panic at all. After a long time, Luo Ren's eyes gradually calmed down, and the atmosphere gradually became relaxed, and he said, yes, I was indeed injured by zombies, and infected with the zombie virus. After receiving the confirmation, Luo's face was immediately full of worry, and he said anxiously, sir, is there any way to treat it? If you need any medicine or other things, I will go through fire and water without hesitation. Seeing Luo caring about him so much, Luo Ren smiled and said, of course there are ways to treat it. If you need to go through fire and water, I will definitely not be polite. Regardless of whether it was a joke or not, as long as it was said from Luo Ren's mouth, Luo would remember it deeply in his heart and never forget it. In fact, all guard soldiers would do the same. Luo nodded heavily and said, my subordinates are always ready to obey orders. Luo Ren waved his hand and said, okay, go down. After seeing Luo off, Luo Ren walked out of the military tent. The weather was perfect today, and the morning breeze was very cool. Buzz, the sound of the engine reached his ears, but it was Luo He who mobilized a 1,000-man escort army to return to Chiang City to call for a transport train. As he passed by, the escort soldiers on the armored vehicle saluted him, and he stared back. Time flies, and a few hours later, Luo He returned successfully with more than 200 medium-sized trucks. Most of these trucks are equipped with protection, and their defense is much stronger than ordinary trucks that have not been modified. Not to mention ordinary zombies. Even level 1 power zombies can resist 1 or 2. The vehicles did not enter the city, but were lined up directly outside the city. There were armored vehicles on the left and right, and in the middle were trucks transporting ordinary civilians. The city gate slowly opened, and 6 tanks came out of the city, 3 in a row. The first row stopped at the back of the convoy, and the rear row went to the front of the convoy. Immediately afterwards, the people went out in order, densely packed, and quickly boarded the vehicles under the organization of the escort. In more than half an hour, all the first batch of civilians boarded the vehicles. Then, under the gaze of Luo Ren and other people in the city, Luo He ordered the vehicle to be started, and set off towards Chiang City. Chapter 199 Population Migration, Part 2. The convoy was huge, and Lao Song, who was watching it together, was dumbfounded and surprised. He can understand vehicles, and he can also understand people. But such a number of vehicles consume a huge amount of fuel. Where did Luo Ren get so much fuel? Did he discover the oil well? But not to mention H City, even Jiangnan province, where H City is located. It's incredible that no oil has been detected underneath. Luo Ren noticed Lao Song's gaze, turned to look at him, smiled slightly, and asked, why, what do you think Chief of Staff Song has to say? Lao Song shook his head and said, no, no, no. Under the gaze of everyone, the figure of the motorcade became smaller and smaller until it disappeared. Luo Ren withdrew his gaze, turned around and looked into the city, only to see the civilians who had not yet been moved away looking worriedly. In the central military tent, Zhajing and Lisa, mother and son, came outside the tent and looked towards the south of the city. At this time, Lisa's complexion was much rosier. He walked steadily and with full strength, and his physical condition had improved visibly. Mom, where will Chief Luo take those people? Lisa asked curiously. The movement of population migration is very big, and it can be said that the whole city is aware of it. However, Luo Ren did not inform or explain this migration in advance, so most people were worried and confused. Chief Luo must be taking them to a better place. Zhajing looked at her son with soft eyes and said softly, really? Then I'll go too. Lisa shouted excitedly. After hearing this, Zhajing smiled slightly, touched her son's head and said, don't worry, Commander Luo will not leave anyone behind. Luo Ren's performance is enough to make Zhajing believe from the bottom of her heart that Luo Ren will never be the kind of person who eats people without spitting out their bones and squeezes the weak and similar people for his own enjoyment. Similarly, in Lisa's heart, Luo Ren is already his idol. He has secretly made up his mind that when he grows up, he must join the guards, follow Luo Ren, and fight against zombies in a blink of an eye. It's the 6th day point Chiang City point. It's 12 o'clock at noon, and the weather is extremely hot today, which can cause people to feel sleepy. The sky marching warriors on the city wall faced the bright sun, and squinted their eyes slightly. Over time, they would feel sleepy. However, when sleepiness hit them, they would grit their teeth and pinch their thighs hard, and then they would immediately become energetic. The price of doing this is that when you go to bed at night, you can see that your thighs have been pinched into purple. But the ground was shaking, and everyone could feel it. If it had been in the past, they would have already made a fighting stance, but it was different today. The Cheyenne March soldiers on duty looked at each other and smiled slightly. They withdrew their gaze and looked ahead, only to see dust flying, and then a huge convoy drove out of the dust, including tanks, armored vehicles, and protected medium-sized trucks. The convoy drove to the bottom of the city, and the city gate opened automatically without getting out of the car to say hello. Hundreds of cars drove into the city and stopped in the city. Many ordinary civilians jumped out of the cars and were amazed when they saw the empty city and the tall city walls. Zhajing took her son's hand and got out of the car. Li Zia saw the tall city walls and her little mouth was so round that she could fit an egg in it. Mom, I will definitely join the guards. After a long time, Li Zia came back to her senses. The expression on her young face was extremely determined. Yeah. Zhajing nodded heavily and said, okay, mom supports you. When the convoy returned to the city, Suan Tong and Liu Liangxin came to greet them, along with Zhu Liang and Xia Chuan. Luo Shan and Luo He stepped forward and saluted Suan Tong and Liu Liangxin, who also returned the military salute. There are not many people left in Sanctuary City number 1. All the people can be relocated in one afternoon. The commander ordered me to take Xia Chuan back to Sanctuary City number 1. Luo Shan spoke first. Xia Chuan, who was not far behind, immediately looked happy when he heard this. Seeing this, Zhu Liang cupped his fists and cupped his hands, saying, congratulations to Deputy Commander Xia. Xia Chuan smiled slightly and said, thank you very much. Although he and Zhu Liang are essentially hostile, they are not bitter and bitter. There is no need to show off their faces when they meet, and they will directly attack if they disagree. Besides, since then, there has been no more Afterglow City Point. When Suan Tong heard that the population migration was about to be completed, he was stunned for a moment, and then said excitedly, so, Brother Ren will be back soon. And Tong. Luo Shan did not speak, but Liu Liangxin shouted with a smile. Suan Tong turned to look at Liu Liangxin with doubts in her eyes, wondering why she called her. Liu Liangxin said, and Tong, you are wrong. Captain Luo Shan said that the population of Sanctuary City number 1 is about to be completely relocated, but there are still more than 100,000 people in Afterglow City. I guess it will take at least 5 or 6 days for Brother Ren to come back. Suan Tong was also thinking about her husband so much that she missed it. Now after hearing Liu Liangxin's explanation, she felt a little disappointed and whispered, okay. After coming back to her senses, she said to Luo Shan, the meals have been arranged for you. You go and eat something quickly. We will settle these people. Luo Shan was not squeamish, and without saying any polite words, he nodded immediately and said, okay. Then he ordered the vehicles to be arranged in order, and then took everyone to the inner city canteen to eat and replenish their strength. After Luo Shan left, Suan Tong and Liu Liangxin immediately started working. First, they mobilized the 500-day march to maintain order, and then called in Saudi Arabia and his friends to register these people, and then arranged temporary accommodation and food distribution. As for the work arrangement, it will take 2 or 3 days to plan. Of course, these 2 or 3 days cannot be left idle, otherwise it will magnify their laziness. Therefore, no matter how much work there is, they have to do it first. The outer city has a huge space, so they can do the work of clearing the debris first. Liu Liangxin came to Xia Chuan and said, Xia Chuan, in the afternoon, you will return to Shelter City number 1 with Luo Shan and Luo He. Xia Chuan nodded, was silent for a while, and said, Liangxin, are you really not going back to the military district? Liu Liangxin looked indifferent, bowed lightly, and said, I have joined the guards. I'm a member of the guards, and I'm also a part of Chiang City. Okay. Zhao Chuan smiled, sighed, and said, yes, this place is much safer than the military district. It is the best choice for you to stay here. The commander also hopes that you will stay here. Liu Liangxin's eyes fluctuated a little, and said, remember to say hello to my father on my behalf when you return to the military district. No problem. Zhao Chuan agreed readily. He waved his hand and turned to leave, but after a few steps, he walked back and said with a wry smile, I wanted to hide it from you, but I thought about it again and again, and I still have to let you know. Liu Liangxin saw his look and asked, what? Zhao Chuan sighed. The Wasteland Military District has also been besieged by zombies, and the situation may be the same as that of Sanctuary City No. 1. Chapter 200 Population Migration, Part 2. What did you say? Liu Lian was shocked. Zhao Chuan had never mentioned it in so many days. It was really unbelievable that he suddenly said such words before leaving. Liu Liangxin also remained skeptical. At the same time, Zhu Liang came over. He heard what Zhao Chuan said just now. Seeing Liu Liangxin's unbelieving expression, he immediately echoed, Deputy Commander Zhao is right. I sent people to the Wasteland Military Region for help. The Wasteland Military District is indeed under siege by zombies. After receiving Zhu Liang's confirmation, Liu Liangxin was shocked. If Zhao Chuan lied to her in order to let her return to the Wasteland Military Region, then Zhu Liang had no reason to lie to her. This was most likely the truth point. Although she joined the guards and vowed to follow Luo Ren, Liu Yangnian was her father after all, so it was impossible not to worry. Right now, the only one who can save the Wasteland Military Region is Luo Ren. Liu Liangxin gritted her teeth, looked at Zhao Chuan solemnly, and said, I will go with you to Sanctuary City No. 1. Hearing this, Zhao Chuan quickly shook his head and said, this is not okay. Lianxin, you are now a guard. Luo Ren asked you to stay in the city. If you follow me to Sanctuary City No. 1, wouldn't it be a violation of military regulations? I will explain to Brother Ren when we get to Sanctuary City No. 1, but you don't have to worry about it. Liu Liangxin said, no, as the saying goes, military orders are like mountains. That's it. You don't need to say more. Liu Liangxin interrupted Zhao Chuan directly and said in a tone that could not be refused. After saying that, she walked away directly without listening to Zhao Chuan's words. Alas, Zhao Chuan wanted to call Liu Liangxin to stop, but Liu Liangxin didn't even turn around. Zhu Liang saw this scene, looked Zhao Chuan up and down, sneered softly, and said to himself, the little fox taught by the old fox. Turning his gaze, he looked at Liu Liangxin's back and thought, this daughter doesn't look like her father at all. Mobile base. What? Are you going to Sanctuary City No. 1, Su? Andong suddenly stood up. In front of her, Liu Liangxin nodded seriously and said, the Wasteland Military Region is besieged by zombies. My father is still inside. As a daughter, I must go to Sanctuary City No. 1. Please Brother Ren sent troops to save my father, but for 2 consecutive large-scale battles, most of the ammunition and supplies carried by the escort army will be consumed. If we save the Wasteland Military Region, it may not be enough. Su Antang quickly calmed down, sat back on the chair, and analyzed. That's why I came to find you. Liu Liangxin said. Su Antang asked in confusion, what do you mean? Liu Liangxin said, the escort army does not have enough ammunition, but there is enough ammunition in the city. When we go to Sanctuary City No. 1, we will have to transport the ammunition there. You are the biggest in Chiang City right now, so I asked you for some ammunition. This Su Antang showed a troubled expression. Luo Ren had authorized her to use the inventory of ammunition, but it was mainly used in defensive battles in response to the enemy's siege. I also want to save my father, Antang, please. Liu Liangxin looked at Suan Tong eagerly. Suan Tong looked at Liu Lian's helpless look and at the same time thought of her family, wondering where they were and whether they were okay. After thinking for a long time, weighing the pros and cons, and calculating the ammunition inventory, Suan Tong finally sighed and compromised. I promise you, but it is unknown whether Brother Ren will agree to send troops to the Wasteland military region. Liu Liangxin was overjoyed and said with firm eyes, I will try my best to persuade Brother Ren. I believe that Brother Ren will definitely send troops to help the Wasteland military region. And Tong bowed his head slightly, without saying much, stood up, walked out of the mobile base, and headed to the inner city military area. Liu Liangxin knew that the main ammunition stocks were in the inner city barracks. With a little thought, she could guess what Suan Tong was going to the inner city barracks for, so she followed him immediately without saying much. When the two came to the barracks, their first destination was not the ammunition warehouse, but the barracks canteen. At this time, the returning guard soldiers were eating here, and Luo Shan and Luo Hei were also there. Suan Tong and Liu Liangxin went straight to Luo Shan and Luo Hei's dining table, and each found a chair to sit down. Luo Shan and Luo Hei were eating. When they saw the two beauties coming and sitting down at their table, they felt a little awkward. They just took a big bite of the rice and immediately turned into chewing it carefully. They didn't want to maintain the image of gentlemen in front of Suan Tong and Liu Liangxin, and they didn't have that idea. In addition, Suan Tong and Liu Liangxin were benevolent women, so they didn't dare to be presumptuous. I made this appearance entirely because it was too sudden and a little uncomfortable. Cough cough cough. The two people in front of him didn't speak for a long time. Luo Shan finally couldn't help it anymore. He swallowed a mouthful of rice, pretended to cough a few times, and asked, you two, why are you looking at us? Yes, we are not mukbang either. Luo Hei immediately agreed. Suan Tong smiled softly and said, I want to discuss something with you and transport some ammunition to Sanctuary City number 1. Luo and Luo Hei was in charge of the afternoon trip. The transportation of ammunition must not be hidden from them, and it couldn't be hidden. Instead of passively discovering it, it was better to take the initiative to make it clear. Of course, if this is explained clearly, some processing can be done. Transporting ammunition? Luo Shan was surprised and asked, why should we transport ammunition? He turned to Luo Hei and said, did the commander say to replenish ammunition? Luo Hei shook his head like a rattle and replied, no. After saying that, they both looked at Suan Tong and asked in unison, why do you need to transport ammunition? Silly. Suan Tong's voice was a little louder, and she said, sir, didn't you say that you don't need to replenish ammunition? You have fought 2 large-scale battles in a row, and your ammunition must have been severely consumed. Doesn't you need to replenish ammunition? That makes sense. After 2 battles, more than 2/3 of the ammunition we carried has been consumed. It's time to replenish some ammunition. After listening to Suan Tong's words, Luo Hei followed Luo Ren's example and rubbed his chin slightly and said, why are you touching my chin? Luo Shan slapped Luo Hei's hand away, shook his head and said, the commander did not give an order. If such a thing is done, it will violate military regulations. No. When the two women saw Luo Shan's insistent and his unyielding expression, Suan Tong frowned slightly, and didn't he know what to do for a moment. She looked at Liu Liangxin and saw a faint flash of anxiety in her eyes. I will go to Sanctuary City number 1 with you. I will explain the ammunition to the commander. Liu Liangxin said. Luo Shan and Luo Hei was surprised and looked deeply at Liu Liangxin. The two looked at each other and fought together for a long time. They were like twins. Even with one look, they could understand each other's thoughts. Looking at each other, the two nodded slightly, and then Luo Shan said, it is indeed reasonable to replenish ammunition, but without the commander's military order, it is difficult for us to agree. But what? The two women asked at the same time. Luo Shan stared at Suan Tong with a serious expression and said solemnly, Soldier Suan Tong, you can write a letter as the captain of the Xiangxing army and the temporary highest officer of Chiang City, and give it to the officer. As for the content of the letter, you should know it. As long as that's the case, transport ammo, no problem. Suan Tong opened her mouth slightly and looked at the two guys in front of her carefully. She didn't expect that these two big and thick men would have such thoughts. Asking her to revise a letter is nothing more than making plans in advance to shirk responsibility. If Luo Ren is pursued, it will all be her fault. Good guy. It is true that people cannot be judged by their appearance, and seawater cannot be measured. However, Luo Ren would definitely not be angry about such a trivial matter. She readily accepted it on the spot and said, okay, just fix one book after each. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.